on the app or on YouTube. And if you're watching on YouTube, then you know that we're in our community studio this morning, yet another one. This week, we are live at the Y, downtown, the YMCA, YWCA. It's been here 145 years strong in Winnipeg. But if you think that we're here just to talk about the physical fitness programs, that's not the case, because the Y does so much more to serve the wider community. And it's really been adapting and evolving to serve the needs of downtown Manitobans and also Winnipeggers all across the city. So we're going to dig into that a little bit today. But if you are watching, we're on the second floor, and people are just getting ready to come in here and fill the gym behind me as they get ready for their days. As you're getting ready for yours, it's 3 minutes to 6 o'clock, and in Winnipeg today, we are expecting a mix of sun and cloud and a high of 23 with a humidex of 25 degrees. So that's what our forecast is looking like. Good morning to Corey Funk, who's on site here. So is Wendy Parker. Thanks to the folks at the Y who are up early and got us in here this morning for the program. Thank you, Casey. Thank you, Mitch. And big thanks to our team back at the 541 Portage Avenue at CBC. And that is Dylan Longhurst, Kevin Nipatebo, and Abby Adeyemi this morning. Heather Wells is in with news headlines ahead of 6 o'clock. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning. Well, RCMP believe they have recovered the body of a missing Winnipeg woman. 29-year-old Brittany Dawn Story was reported missing June 6th. Her friends say she was in a video chat when she told them she'd hit a tree. Well, now police believe they have found her body inside her vehicle. It was submerged in a pond near Molson. That's near Beausejour, so we'll hear more about that. And Saturday marks 1 year since the bus crash on the Trans-Canada near Carberry left 17 people dead, 8 others injured. We're going to hear from some people who were there, who tried to help that day, coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
All right. Thank you very much, Heather. Well, this morning on the program in the very first hour here from the Y, we're going to hear about how people are finding this a place where they belong. It's the mission of the Y, in fact. Its programs are always tweaking to meet the goal, as I mentioned. So we're going to hear exactly what programs are being targeted right now to help newcomers and youth find that sense of place in our community. So stay tuned for that story. Also, we're going to begin the show with a man on a pickleball mission here at the downtown Y. In fact, he brought the sport here and now he's coaching others. So we'll stay tuned for that. World Report, though, is next.
On Cue with Tom Power.
When you go to a Kamasi Washington show, it's a jazz show. There's no doubt about that. But it's full of people who've probably never been to a jazz show before in their lives. Kamasi will be here to talk about how he made jazz accessible for a larger audience and working with Kendrick Lamar.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Kendrick definitely kicked the door wide open.
That's coming up on Cue, followed by Commotion with Elamine Abdel Mahmoud on CBC Radio 1, the CBC Listen app, and everywhere you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. We are getting troubling details about sexual violence in the Israel-Hamas war. For months, there have been stories from survivors and allegations in the news. Independent experts have been conducting a detailed investigation backed by the United Nations, and today they are reporting what they found. Julia Wong is in our London bureau going over the details. And Julia, what are these experts revealing?
So there are 2 reports, one focusing on the October 7th attacks and another focusing on Israel's response in the months following. Published by the UN Commission of Inquiry, the reports indicate both Israel and Hamas committed war crimes, including murder, outrages upon personal dignity, torture, and inhumane or cruel treatment. One report found evidence suggesting Hamas and other Palestinian groups decapitated Israelis, set houses on fire while there were people inside, and it also finds there was a pattern of sexual violence in the attacks. The second report finds Israeli bombardments have wiped out whole families, that civilians were forced into harm's way when attacks were carried out, and civilians were killed even when holding white flags. That report also states it heard accounts of gender-based violence carried out by Israeli troops, including public stripping, removing of veils, and physical abuse of women who refused to undergo searches. And it finds Israelis, through their military response, have committed the war crime of intentionally using starvation as a type of warfare. Israel's diplomatic mission to the UN told Reuters that Israel rejects these findings, and so far there's been no response from Hamas.
All of this is coming while U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in the Middle East. What is on his agenda today?
He's on his way to Qatar right now, where he will meet with the Qatari Prime Minister. Much of his time during this visit has been focused on getting that ceasefire proposal across the finish line. He met with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu earlier this week, who he says reaffirmed his commitment to the proposal. And there remains a lot of hope after Hamas submitted its formal response to the plan and expressed a readiness to positively reach a deal.
Thank you, Julia.
Thank you.
The CBC's Julia Wong reporting from London. The International Criminal Court is appealing for witnesses to atrocities in Sudan. It is investigating allegations of war crimes and crimes against humanity. Fighting between the country's army and paramilitary rapid support forces has displaced some 10 million people. And now the violence is intensifying in North Darfur. Idil Musa is following developments.
I am launching an urgent call.
The International Criminal Court's chief prosecutor, Karim Khan, is pleading for help in documenting atrocities in Sudan. More than 14,000 people have been killed in the conflict, and the UN says there are reports of widespread use of sexual violence as a weapon of war.
I am particularly concerned by the ethnically motivated nature of these attacks.
On Sunday, the only hospital capable of handling mass casualties in North Darfur's capital was attacked. A video posted to social media, not verified by CBC News, appears to show members of the RSF cheering in front of the facility. Doctors Without Borders says the paramilitary group opened fire and looted drugs and medical equipment. The United Arab Emirates has been accused of sending weapons to the militia, while Egypt and Saudi Arabia have been linked to supporting the country's army. Nisreen El-Amin teaches African Studies at the University of Toronto.
Unless all of those actors are brought to the negotiation table, I think little will change on the ground. There needs to be pressure on those external actors.
The UN says Sudan's civil war has created the world's worst displacement crisis, and the country now stands on the brink of famine. Idil Musa, CBC News, Toronto.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau will fly to Italy this morning for the annual G7 Leaders Summit. The three-day meeting begins tomorrow in the southern region of Puglia, and it is happening as two major conflicts weigh on the international community. The war in Ukraine is entering its third year, and it has been 250 days since the start of the Israel-Hamas war in the Middle East. The leaders are also expected to discuss energy transition, artificial intelligence, migration, and collaboration with Africa. The G7 is made up of Italy, Canada, the US, the UK, Germany, France, and Japan. Pope Francis is once again being criticized for using a homophobic slur in a closed-door meeting, but this time it was in front of a few hundred priests. It happened just weeks after he had to apologize for using the same offensive word. Megan Williams has more from Rome.
Last month, Pope Francis, the most welcoming of all popes to 2S LGBTQ plus Catholics, issued an apology following a leak that he'd used a highly offensive word to describe gay men in a closed-door meeting with Catholic bishops.
And yet, he used it again.
Says longtime Vatican observer Robert Mickens of reports from a meeting with priests yesterday that he repeated the word.
It makes one wonder, did he really repent of saying it the first time?
According to Italian media, Francis told the group of priests meeting here in Rome that the Vatican has an air of gayness, using the offensive term to describe gayness. He said it was better that young men with what he called a homosexual tendency, Vatican speak for gay, not be allowed to enter the seminary. Studies show the percentage of gay men in the priesthood is higher than the general population. Mickens says rather than sexuality being openly discussed in seminaries, gay men are often pressured to stay in the closet. The Pope's comment, he says, not only encourages this, but it also
enforces the mentality of the bigots so they can feel supported in their own bigotry.
Last night, the Vatican issued a statement saying the Pope had spoken of welcoming gay men into the church with the need for prudence regarding their entry into the seminary. Megan Williams, CBC News, Rome.
Today in Lethbridge, Alberta, a female undercover officer will continue her testimony at the trial for two men charged with conspiracy to commit murder. It happened during the Coutts border blockade in 2022. Prosecutors allege Anthony Olniak and Chris Carbert plotted to murder people. The undercover officer testified she and her colleagues infiltrated the blockade. They posed as supporters of what Olniak called the revolution. She says Olniak told her the group stockpiled hundreds of guns, and if the Mounties tried to take action against them, he said force would be met with greater force. A new billion-dollar deal has the potential to change telecommunications in the North. Bell Canada says it is selling the region's largest telecom company, Northwestel. Now, groups from all three territories are joining together to create one of the largest Indigenous-owned companies in the country. Chris Windier reports.
It brings three territories together, and it really allows us to take control of the communications in our communities that we rely on.
Tiffany Eckert-Murray is with 60 North Unity's Yukon Wing. The Indigenous-owned consortium also includes Nunavut and the Northwest Territories, and it's about to buy the largest private sector employer north of 60, Northwestel. The region's main telecommunications company has been part of Bell Canada since the 1980s. Eckert-Murray says the deal is an important milestone for economic reconciliation in the North.
When you're asking us what this deal means, to me, we are honoring the spirits of our grandfathers, and that nothing more powerful than that.
Northwestel offers phone, internet, and TV service in all three territories, but it has also come under fire from Northerners for poor service and high prices. Eckert-Murray says 60 North Unity plans some major upgrades. It hopes to double fiber optic internet speeds, expand satellite and terrestrial internet coverage, and put $4 million into a backup fiber optic cable for the Northwest Territories. Northwestel President Curtis Shaw says the deal also means jobs coming back to the North.
Finance and accounting, legal, regulatory, those positions are going to be hired back in Northern Canada, which I think is really great from a private sector employment standpoint.
The sale price, roughly $1 billion. Bell and 60 North Unity plan to close the deal later this year. Chris Windier, CBC News, Whitehorse.
K-pop fans are celebrating. Jin from the band BTS has completed his mandatory service in the South Korean military, and he looks pretty happy. Television videos showed him hugging his colleagues, and his bandmate RM greeted him with a saxophone version of this hit single, Dynamite. Jin is getting back to work tomorrow. He will be doing a 1-hour performance and a meet and greet with fans. That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Vaughn looking out the big beautiful windows on the second floor of the downtown Y. A nice sky out there, Winnipeg. We're expecting a high today of 23. We'll get into the current conditions in a moment. So why are we here? Well, because this place has evolved to be about working out your body, but also working out your mind, meeting daycare needs of the many people in downtown Winnipeg, among other things. We are talking about 145 years of the downtown Y. So today we're going to explore some of the programming and how it's changed to meet the community's needs. But we're starting the show with a man on a pickleball mission here at the downtown Y, so stay tuned for that interview. And a little bit later in the program, to some of the news of the day, we're also going to talk about the 1-year anniversary of the province's deadliest bus crash, and that's also in the news. Heather Wells is here with our headlines.
Good morning. Well, we will be hearing from people who were first responders at the Trans-Canada near Carberry in that bus crash that claimed the lives of 17 people. We're going to hear from Dr. Sean Young is one who says meeting the families and seeing what they were going through that day is going to stick with him forever. So that's coming up. As well, Premier Wab Kinew says the project to search the Prairie Green landfill for the remains of 2 First Nations women started months ago. The province has approved an environmental license. A healing space building is under construction to be installed on the site next month. And Kinew says a test search will be done this month. We're going to hear more about what is being planned and how that search will be conducted coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
And Heather, I thought it was interesting, even though it was just the initial announcement yesterday, how much information that the Premier was already able to offer the public. I actually thought we got a lot more information about the trajectory of the search and how things are planned to progress, at least than we had maybe expected.
Yeah, they've been working on this for a while, just waiting for that license. And now they know they have a test site. They know they're going to do a manual search rather than using conveyor belts. So yeah, they've got a lot of things lined up already.
Absolutely. If you missed all those details, by the way, please go to our website, as Heather will mention, and I'll mention through the morning, at cbc.ca/Manitoba. Your time right now on CBC 6:13. We're live from the downtown Y. Abby Adiyemi's in with the forecast. Abby, I got to tell you where I'm sitting, okay?
Okay, please give me a description.
So seriously, I'm on the second floor in the gym. People are already here starting to work out, but I've got the best wall of windows. It is like I'm looking north. The whole sky is like this pale blue, and I've got the views of a whole bunch of downtown high-rise apartment blocks where people are, going to just start to be coming out onto their balconies and having morning coffee, and it's just the most unique view. But I can tell you, there is not a cloud in the sky from this vantage point. What are we looking for
From
today?
your view, can you see the sun already bouncing on the side of the buildings?
Just starting, but it's coming up the side. Yeah, it looks like it's clear as a bell.
Yeah, that's what we're going to start in the day with this morning for sure. Some sunshine. It's clear outside, 12 degrees at the moment. We're expecting a mix of sun and clouds later in the day, though. There's a chance of showers later this morning into the afternoon period. And also, I will not forget to mention that there's a risk of thunderstorm later in the day. Our high for today is 23. Now, this evening, we should expect partly cloudy skies to take the skies and a 60% chance of showers. Also, thunderstorm might make its appearance after midnight. In Winnipeg, it's 12 degrees. Today, we'll see a mix of sun and clouds, a chance of showers and possible thunderstorm this afternoon, and we will be getting to a high of 23.
All right, thanks, Abby.
You're welcome.
Well, before we turn our attention to the traffic situation, I just want to say good morning to my partner on site here, Corey Funk. Corey,
howdy.
You were already outside the Y. Were there already people lined up?
Yeah, so there's a lot of early risers that come through here every morning. Actually, met one guy, John, who's actually I think behind us. If you look, he's in the blue shirt on a treadmill over here.
Hi, John.
He's getting in his early workout right now, but he's also going to play floor hockey. He's been coming here every morning pretty much for 20 years.
Wow.
He teaches spin class, he works out, he plays floor hockey. So it's a big part of his life. Another guy, Nathaniel's been coming for 2 years. He just comes shoots hoop in the morning. He plays competitive basketball and just likes to get in his reps.
So we're going to be exploring sort of what this means, the Y means, the downtown Y means to people's lives in Winnipeg, and also, of course, how they're changing their programming to meet those needs as well. So I love that we're not alone, even though we're at this early hour. All right, so what is quiet, I suspect, is traffic. But let's check with Dylan Longhurst just in case. Good morning, Dylan.
Good morning. Yeah, not a bad guess there. We haven't heard anything really slowing people down out there on the commute. So if you know you're out to get to your early morning exercise today, wherever that might be, let us know what's happening out there on the commute. 204-788-3093.
Well, do you recognize that sound? You might recognize that sound because I would say right now the world is obsessed with pickleball. And maybe our first guest is too. In fact, Murray Thompson brought the sport here to the downtown Y. And at the age of 78, he dares you to scoff at what has now become one of the fastest growing sports in North America. Hi, Murray.
Good morning.
Tell the radio listeners about your shirt. I love this. You came representing. People can see it on YouTube if they really lean in.
Well, I saw this on Amazon and I couldn't resist it. It's a pickleball shirt. So
it's got playing pickleball. And what does it say on it? What's the score? Who just served? Were you 1 or 2? I don't know what that means.
We're okay, 1 or 2. If you're serving, first serve, if you're playing teams, that's number 1.
Okay.
Then when you lose that serve, number 2, your partner serves.
Got it. How is it that you brought pickleball to the downtown Y?
Well, we started playing pickleball, my wife and I, when we went to Arizona about 8 years ago. And then we played at the Bronx for 2 years.
Out on Henderson, Bronx
Yes,
Community Center.
that's right.
Yeah.
And we were coming here for 18 years, and I thought, well, why am I coming here and going another place? So I asked the management, could I bring pickleball to the Y? And they said yes. And there was another pickleball place on that would be the West Portage.
Yep.
That wasn't going over very good, the Y. So I picked up all the equipment, brought it here. That was about 2 years before COVID. And we got it nicely started, then COVID started.
Oh, bad timing, right? Yeah.
Yes, and then I had to start it all over after COVID.
How many players do you have? Because you're coaching pickleball here now. So how many people are involved in playing pickleball
I
at the
would
downtown
say
Y?
between 30 and 35 right now.
Okay, that's a healthy number of folks.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it's growing.
And what's the range of ages, Marie, for your players?
Early 20s to my age. I think I'm likely the oldest.
Now, you have heard all the jokes about pickleball. And I know also that you shared with me you used to play competitive racquetball and tennis. So, some people are going to shrug off pickleball. They're like, no, it's not really a sport, though. It's a recreational thing, right? Defend pickleball, Murray.
Well, good defense is McEnroe. Everybody knows who he is in tennis. And he and some of the other aged tennis players used to mock pickleball. But now they started playing it, and they love it. And they're in different tournaments. And I've been watching them play. So it started originally with seniors, but now there's many young people, even in their teens, that have given up other racket sports to play pickleball.
Why do you think it's taken off in that way? What do you love about playing it?
Well, the thing I like about it is, well, I'm 78, so it's maybe different for me, but it is competitive, and yet at the end of the day, you could ask me how many games I won or lost, and I don't know, because it's a real community game. And especially with the group that we have here down at the Y, everybody is so friendly. When there's new players, everybody's there to help them. And so it's just a real good community game.
People heard the ball bouncing. You might have been able to hear, if you've never seen or played pickleball, it's hollow, right? The ball itself?
It's a plastic hollow ball.
And it's sometimes people could describe it as ping pong on a court. It's different than that slightly, but sometimes that's how it's described, just for the radio listeners, right?
Best described as that.
You know the origin story. I've never heard this before, so sorry, Winnipeg, if you have. But what's the origin story of the name?
Well, of the name, it started in 1965. I just forget what town it was or city it was in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
But a couple had bought a home, and they wanted to set up a tennis court, but there wasn't enough room. So they developed this game.
Okay.
Because their yard wasn't big enough. And after it started to get popular with neighbors and other people wanting to build one in their backyard, they thought as a family they better get a name for it. So they had a dog named Pickle, and apparently whenever the ball went out of the court, he chased the ball. So when they were sitting around the table, the dog ran across the kitchen, and they said, well, let's call it Pickleball.
I love that.
Apparently that's how it got its name.
I'm a huge dog lover, so I love that story. Now, you also said kitchen, so I can't help but ask you this, because there is some terminology. If you're going to get into pickleball and come to the downtown Y and be coached by Murray, you should know that the kitchen's actually part of the sport. What's the kitchen in pickleball?
Well, the kitchen is a line that's about 7 feet on each side of the net.
Okay.
And if you're going to hit the ball in the air without it bouncing, you have to be behind that line. So they call that the kitchen.
Who knows why?
And if it bounces inside the kitchen, then you can go inside the line and get it.
Got it.
Yeah.
So obviously we're here to talk pickleball because you love it and that's your thing here, you're coaching. But we're in a bigger way. We're here this morning at our community studio, I'm calling it at the Y, because we're trying to understand what place the downtown Y specifically has in people's lives. For you, what does it mean, this place? How important is it to your life?
It's very important. Like I said, we've been here for 18 years. We started here when we moved to a condo on Waterfront Drive. We can walk here. And what I like about this specific Y, it has everything. You've got 3 floors, you've got a real good track, you've got swimming, you've got racket sports, You got really good weights, machines. Everything is here. I've never been to a better Y, and as I travel through the States, I go to different Ys. None has been like this Y.
You have obviously, through your coaching, you must have regular community here as well that you're finding and connecting with all the time.
Oh, yes. Yes, made a lot of good friends.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right, make your last pitch, Murray, before you're off CBC about pickleball. If somebody wants more information, they just go to the Y website maybe and find out if they can join one of your teams?
Yeah, or I'll give you my number and they can call me, and I can make arrangements to meet you here at some time that suits you to take you through a class in pickleball.
Well, I'll tell you what, just in case the floodgates open and everyone goes crazy with your number, we'll get them to call CBC,
Yes.
and I will forward everything to you. Sound good?
Okay, sounds great.
What are you doing now? You're all dressed to be here and working out. Are you going to play pickleball now, or do you start with something else?
No, we start at 7:30.
Mhm.
I work out with weights and stuff before I play pickleball.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
You're so fit. I'm envious of that. I got to come out and play with you.
Okay.
Get my butt in gear. Thank you, Murray. Pleasure to have you on
You're
CBC.
welcome.
Nice
Thank
to
you.
see you.
Thank you.
So Murray Thompson with us here live at the Downtown Y. He's a pickleball coach, and he, of course, wants you to consider playing too. You can check out schedules. You can come out and play, but you can also reach out to us at CBC, and we will, as promised, forward that information on to Murray if you want to connect over pickleball. So the way to reach us is radio893@cbc.ca.
Winnipeg is looking for help deciding how to replace Pego. It wants to modernize its bus fare collection system. Well, what problems have you had with Pego? What else needs to be modernized? Let's talk transit Wednesday on our call-in conversation. Weigh in now at 204-788-3797.
Time right now is 6:24 a.m. on 89.3 FM, 990 a.m. on your app or YouTube. I'm Marcy Marcusa. We're out on location. It's mainly sunny in Winnipeg. Nice clear sky. The high today is 23 degrees as people start to stream here into the downtown Y. Well, next, let's turn our attention to some news of the day. Leaders of the Group of 7 countries, as you may have heard on World Report, are meeting starting Thursday for a 3-day summit in Italy. Tomorrow they will be talking about the wars in Ukraine and Gaza and further about sanctions against Russia. Oral Brown is with us to set this all up. He's a political scientist at the University of Toronto. Good morning, Oral.
Good morning.
So set the stage here with some context, because as we've been hearing in the news, this meeting comes after the European parliamentary elections that saw the strengthening of right-wing political parties. So what's your sense about what the mood and tension is going to be at this gathering?
There was indeed political shock in Europe as to how well right-wing parties did in this parliamentary election. We can see the consequences of that in France and even in Germany as well. This meeting, which is on the 50th anniversary of G7, has a very ambitious agenda, and it could be a very consequential summit. They will cover a vast range of issues from Africa to climate change, to Ukraine, the Middle East, migration, in the Pacific. And this is why it is so essential that there should be certain perspectives, sort of first principles, that there ought to be an understanding that this grouping of countries is very influential, that collectively they have something like 43% of the GDP in nominal terms. They have an astonishing footprint in terms of international trade, and they share values. And those values, those democratic values, are under attack both domestically and internationally. But it also happens that 6 out of the 7 leaders who are attending are coming in either wounded or diminished. And it is the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, who's hosting this, who's the star, who's done the best of all of them. So there will be those domestic considerations as well as the domestic and international issues that all of these countries would like to see addressed.
So let me ask you specifically about some of the conflict areas. So war in Ukraine to begin with. What are G7 leaders saying on that?
There is an increasing recognition that this is the 11th hour, that the Western democracies have been really slow in responding. They have been far too timid, and Ukraine has paid a very, very large price for that. At the moment, Ukraine is suffering very significant tactical losses. which Vladimir Putin is trying to convert into a strategic win, no matter what he sustains in lives lost, Russian lives lost. He doesn't much care about lives, whether in Ukraine or in Russia. And the next few months will be extremely important in trying to prevent that. So these countries need to step up. This G7 summit will be followed by a peace summit in Switzerland, where 90 countries, including all the G7, will attend. But here, too, I think President Biden will try to persuade the other G7 countries to go along with using frozen Russian assets and involve hundreds of billions of dollars to help Ukraine economically. But
I want to turn. I want to just move us along here, if I may interject here, because I want to make sure that I ask you about war in the Middle East. Do you think that we're going to see further movement with the G7 meetings with pressure for a ceasefire?
There is a very strong desire for a ceasefire in terms of ending the loss of life. It's a tragedy when we see the loss of innocent life on either side, and all life has equal value. But translating that desire into a policy that will be effective is going to be very difficult because the details are so very, very important. And this is why it's essential that we go back to these values and how do we fight attacks on democracy? How do we deal with terrorism? Where does Iran come into this? Gaza cannot be viewed just in isolation. And if you look at the region in somewhat larger terms, you have conflict continuing, not only that ISIS has been entirely dismantled, but we have this horrific tragedy in Sudan, where over 7 million people have been displaced, 2 million refugees, and the capital lies in ruins, Khartoum.
Lastly, briefly, what does Prime Minister Justin Trudeau specifically want to get out of this summit, in your view?
He has long had an agenda that involved climate change, specifically dealing with fossil fuels. International trade is also essential. But he has also tried to raise the profile of Canada and his own profile, I suppose, and the trajectory has not been very encouraging. We don't have good relations with India or with China. There are political changes coming in Europe, possibly in the United States. Mr. Trudeau's international credibility has not been on an upward curve. If you contrast that to Giorgia Meloni, the Italian Prime Minister, who has become an international star despite expectation, then there's a very wide gap. So with the elections coming up in Canada, it should not be surprising that Mr. Trudeau will also try to burnish his image, political image, but it is also that Canada will be hosting the G7 next year, and so Mr. Trudeau has to work on that as well.
Oral Brown, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you for having me on.
Oral Brown setting up the G7 summit, which is coming up and beginning tomorrow in Italy. A political science professor with us this morning from the University of Toronto. That's Oral Brown. We're coming up to 6:30 here. I just want to mention we have business news ahead. Kristalee Ramlakan today talking about the fact that there's more developments in an investigation into an alleged anti-competitive conduct by large grocers, that issue that they're looking into. So we'll hear more about it right after the CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it is 12 degrees. Not a bad day on the way. A mix of sun and clouds. Slight chance of showers, maybe even an afternoon thunderstorm. Today's high is 23. Premier Wab Kinew says the project to search the Prairie Green landfill for the remains of 2 First Nations women started months ago. The province has approved an environmental license. A healing space building is under construction and will be installed on that site in July. Kinew says a test search will be done this month, and he says officials have decided to conduct a manual search.
After having our team and our experts look into this, we have concluded that this is going to allow us to move forward in a much more robust fashion with a more thorough search with less downtime. If we use a conveyor belt system, if the belt breaks, the whole search comes to a stop.
Searchers will be hired and trained over the summer. Canoe says some family members of Morgan Harris and Mercedes Myron are interested in joining the search. The project could go into early 2026. Canoe believes the $40 million committed by the two levels of government will cover the costs. On Saturday, it will be 1 year since a crash on the Trans-Canada Highway near Carberry left 17 people dead, 8 others injured. The first responder and medical response was unprecedented. Grant Therrien is the provincial director for STARS operations in Manitoba. He's also a critical care paramedic. He says it's remarkable people survived, but feels for those who didn't.
STARS, mourns alongside those families, the communities, Manitoba as a whole. That was a pretty dark day, and it's hard not to think about those folks that we lost.
A monument dedicated to everyone on the bus that day is being unveiled in Dauphin on Saturday. RCMP believe they've recovered the body of a missing Winnipeg woman. 29-year-old Brittany Dawn Story was reported missing June 6th. Friends say she was in a video chat when she told them she'd just hit a tree west of Whiteshell Provincial Park. This week, further information led police to a pond in the area of Molson near Beausejour. And yesterday, an RCMP underwater recovery team pulled out a submerged vehicle with a body inside. An autopsy will be done to confirm identity. For the second time in 8 months, it is election time in Tuxedo. A by-election for the vacant provincial constituency is underway. CBC's Bartley Kivas reports.
Hello. Hi, Carla. How are you?
Good. Carla Compton knocks on a friendly door on Elmhurst Road. That's not unusual, except Compton is an NDP candidate in a provincial district that's only ever elected Tories.
They're ready for something new. They're ready for someone new.
In its 43-year existence, Tuxedo has only elected 2 MLAs, Gary Filman and Heather Stephenson, both of them former PC leaders and premiers. But with the NDP in power right now and the Tories without a permanent leader, the pressure's on the PCs to hold on to the seat. Their candidate, lawyer Lawrence Pinsky, says the NDP is doing a poor job.
I see a provincial government that's really separating people, that's doing terribly on the economy.
The Liberals are running Jamie Fow, a PhD candidate in community health science. The Green Party is running its leader, Janine Gibson. The Tuxedo by-election takes place on Tuesday. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
An independent study into the first months of the Israel-Hamas war is alleging both sides in the conflict are guilty of committing a wide range of atrocities. Endorsed by the United Nations, it says Hamas and other armed Palestinian groups have deliberately killed and mistreated civilians. That includes sexual violence against Israeli women. The study also says Israeli forces have engaged in forced starvation, murder, and intentional attacks on civilians. Israeli officials are rejecting the findings, and at this point there has been no response from Hamas. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is traveling to Italy today. He will attend this year's G7 summit. The wars in Gaza and Ukraine are expected to dominate the agenda. You can hear more national and international news coming up on World Report at 7. And you can find the latest Manitoba news on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you, Heather. 6:35 a.m. the time right now on 89.3 FM, 990 a.m. on the app or YouTube. You're on CBC. We are live at the Downtown Y. We're at 301 Vaughan Street under a beautiful blue sky here, and we're getting to know the people that use this facility. We're also learning a little bit more about how the Y is serving the needs of the downtown population and overall in Winnipeg, how they've shifted and changed. So stay tuned because I pulled someone out of their morning hockey game that we're going to talk to in a moment. But right now, let's dip into the forecast and the commute really quick. So first to Abby with the news on the day.
Winnipeg is at 12 degrees, clear skies, sunny out there. We'll see a mix of sun and clouds today. We're heading to a high of 23. Brandon is at 10 at the moment, heading to a high of 24. Moving on to Thompson, we will be getting to a high of 18 degrees today. Further north, Churchill is at 1 and heading to a high of +3. Dauphin is at 7, heading to a high of 18. Gimli at 8 degrees, heading to a comfortable high of 20. Finally, Morris is at 14 and heading to a high of 26. Winnipeg at 12, heading to a high of 23.
All right, thanks, Abby.
You're welcome.
Dylan Longhurst is filling in for Corey Funk because Corey is here, so it's musical chairs. Dylan, what's up on the commute?
Yeah, not much happening on the commute so far. That phone line has been quiet, so if you're seeing something slowing you down out there on your morning commute, let us know. 204-788-3093.
Well, I'll tell you who commuted here, my next guest. We pulled him in to be on the air on CBC as we're exploring the downtown Y here on Vaughan Street. Tesfeldet Gabremescal is here for an early morning hockey game. Good morning.
Good morning. Hi.
So you commuted here from where?
Yeah, I came from Eritrea.
Okay, but this morning you came from what neighborhood?
I came from Sage Creek.
Okay, so why do you choose the downtown Y? Why do you come here?
Yeah, because we have a very good team here. We've been playing for more than, especially the team, they've been playing here more than 35 years. And I just came here one day and I tried to do exercise, and there is a guy called Jimmy. He played for more than 30 years here in YMCA for hockey, for all hockey. And they just invite me to play with them. It was like first time to me to play in this I don't know also how to play hockey, but when I start 2 weeks was a little bit hard, and then I just know how to play now. I play hockey, and it's a very good game. I'm a good player now.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
Now I drive almost 30 minutes to come and to Jane to play with them.
I love that.
Yeah.
So you obviously you're athletic to begin with. You didn't just pick up hockey and you're a great player now. What did you play before?
I used to play soccer.
Got it.
Yeah, but when I start hockey, I love it. I'm here in Winnipeg. That's a hockey home. Yeah.
So you said that there's 35 people involved in this floor hockey. Obviously, I think the gym's just beside us up here, right?
Yes.
Where you play. You said they're really good. Do you play all against each other here at the Y, or tell me a bit about who you play with or against?
There is different guys that they come from everywhere, and as I told you, this team, they've been together for more than 35 years.
Wow.
Some of them they play 20 years every morning. They play from Monday and Wednesday and Friday. These 3 days in a week, all early morning. We start 6:30 and we end 7:30.
So what does it mean to you to have been called into that community when Jimmy said, hey, come play with us?
We love, we know each other. I'm just joined them 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But I love it. I always early morning that's my favorite, better than to drink coffee, to come here. Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
What is it about hockey that you've fallen in love with?
Because first of all, hockey is it's a love game, and if you have a good team all the time, each other, you share the day with them, it's good, it's fun, and exercise also.
Yeah. It's got the same sensibility as soccer too, where it's everyone's got to pull their weight because you got to move the puck, just like you got to move the ball. So it's a real pure team sport.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love it. So what do you play? What position?
I play on attack.
Play attack.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, when's your game start this morning?
Oh, it's gonna start now 6:30, but I'm a little bit late.
Okay. He's coming. He's coming. Oh, I see them in there. They're actually stretching with their sticks in the window.
Yeah.
Okay, you go.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Thanks
nice
for being on
you.
CBC.
See ya.
Have a great
Bye.
game. Tesfeldet Gabremescal this morning commutes from Sage Creek, as he mentioned, also originally from Eritrea. But he came here and was basically tapped on the shoulder. That's the why. Come join our community. In this case, the community was floor hockey, and he joined, never played, loves hockey now, and is a really good player, as he said. So he's on the team here that's getting ready to go. We're going to talk more about building community at the Y. That's why we're here. We're learning how they're meeting the needs of people in Winnipeg. And still ahead this half hour on the program, fostering connections like the one that Tesfeldet just talked about. Fostering belonging, but also fostering better health. It's one of the missions of the Y, in fact. But how do you reach people who are new to Winnipeg or who may be struggling with mental health challenges? So we talk a lot about physical health, but dealing with people's mental health challenges is also a big growing area of the Y. So we'll hear how the Y's evolved to meet those needs of our ever-changing downtown population. So stay tuned for that. That's still ahead this half hour. It's 20 to 7 right now on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app or YouTube. And next, Crystalie Ramlakan is here with our business report, as she is daily. Good morning.
Hello. Good morning, Marcy.
So there have been more developments in an investigation, I understand, into an anti-competitive conduct, or alleged, I should say, by large grocers. What can you tell us today?
Yes. So the Competition Bureau has obtained 2 court orders requiring the parent companies of Loblaws and Sobeys to hand over information. So the Bureau is investigating the use of property controls in the grocery sector, which are clauses in lease agreements that restrict other potential tenants and their activities. So last month, the Bureau applied in federal court for the company's records on real estate holdings and lease agreements. And the Bureau says the information will help determine whether there are restrictions that negatively affect competition. So Sobeys owner Empire denies property controls are anti-competitive. Loblaws parent company is cooperating with the review, but it says property controls are very common in many industries, including retail. The company says they help support property development investments. Now, the Bureau has said property controls could be holding back growth for independent grocery stores and could be a barrier for foreign players looking to enter the Canadian market. So, as we've said before as well, the federal industry minister has said he's looking for a foreign grocer to enter Canada to help boost competition.
Let's go to another story this morning. You have news that could affect competition, speaking of which, in the banking industry today.
Yes, so the country's banking sector is facing a further consolidation. National Bank of Canada has reached a deal to acquire Canadian Western Bank, which values the lender at about $5 billion. The deal will see Quebec-focused National Bank expand its reach as it takes over Canadian Western's operations, which are concentrated in Alberta and British Columbia. And the deal comes just months after RBC closed its acquisition of HSBC Canada, which drew criticism for increasing market concentration. So National Bank is the 6th largest in Canada. It says the agreement will expand its footprint, offer more choices for customers, and create a stronger national competitor. For more on this, here's John Zechner, who is the chairman of investment management firm Zechner Associates.
They've been consolidating the sector a little bit, and Laurentian Bank put themselves up for sale, but nobody was interested. But National Bank has always really wanted to be, a national player and expand beyond Quebec, and they have added more, and they've gone national. But this really solidifies that move, so it really puts them in with the those other big 5 Canadian banks.
Now, the acquisition must be approved by regulators and 2/3 of Canadian Western Bank's shareholders at a meeting expected to be held in September, and that transaction is expected to close by the end of next year.
And just before we look at the numbers today, everyone's heard of online spam, but now there's something called slop. I have no idea what that means.
Yeah, well, when I explain it to you, you might probably understand it. So it's a newer term in reference to shoddy or unwanted AI content on social media and in search results. So, for example, all those posts in your Facebook feed that seem to come out of nowhere, well, they're all slop. Not from your actual friends, but just all these random ads and articles that you're seeing that don't really seem real, that are generated by AI. So the term became more prevalent last month when Google incorporated its Gemini AI model into search results. Rather than pointing users toward links, the service attempts to solve a query directly with an AI overview, a chunk of text at the top of a results page. Now, there have been some problems with it, so Google has said it's going to roll back some of its AI features until those problems can be ironed out. But with the dominant search engine making AI a priority, it appears there will be more info served up by machines. Jason Kebler is the co-host of the 404 Media podcast. He says AI slop is designed to do well with discovery algorithms like Google search and lead to pages with ads generating revenue.
The internet is being taken over by AI slop, which is making human work a lot harder to discover.
And so like actual slop for livestock, AI-assisted search comes together quickly, but not necessarily in a way that people can stomach.
What's going on with the numbers today?
In Europe, stocks are higher ahead of the latest U.S. Federal Reserve decision and inflation reading. Germany, the UK, and France are all up. In Asia, markets are mixed as investors assess inflation data around the continent. So Japan is down, Shanghai is up, Hong Kong is down. Oil is up 91 cents to 78.81 U.S. per barrel. Gold is down $3.14 to $2,313.88 U.S. per ounce. And the dollar is up 0.06 of a cent to 72.74 cents U.S.
All right, Crystal Lee Ramlakan, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Marcy.
That's Chrisley Ramlicam with business news. Time right now is 6:46 a.m. Thanks for joining us. It's Wednesday morning. It is June the 12th, and it's mainly sunny in Winnipeg. We're live at the Downtown Y, and that's our community studio today at 301 Vaughan. On the second floor in the gym area, people are already on the bikes and pumping weights. There's an early morning hockey game going on. It's a pretty busy place. We can see through the windows here at the Downtown Y. The sky is blue. It's really lovely, actually, start to the day. Our temperature is 12 degrees. We got lots of sunshine. Our high today is going to be 23 degrees. Well, as you've been hearing in the news, let's turn our attention to serious matters. On Saturday, Manitobans will lean into the one-year anniversary of the province's deadliest bus crash. 17 people, most of them seniors, died on June 15th last year when a bus carrying seniors collided with a semi near Carberry. It was a horrific day for all. Many of the survivors were sent to Health Sciences Centre in Winnipeg. There's a feature online with one of the survivors that was done by our colleague Alana Cole that you can check out on our website in case you missed that story. Minutes following this crash, though, you might recall hundreds of first responders and medical staff jumped into action to try to treat the people on scene. Alana's been working on a series of stories, and next on the show, she spoke with Dr. Sean Young, Chief Operating Officer at HSC, about what the response looked like on that day 1 year ago.
I wasn't in the OR that day, but we were doing our regular work, got the call. Again, we do get calls about incidents on highways, snowstorms, and things where there's concern often. So you get an initial awareness, and then, okay, this is real. You've got another confirmation that there's some seriously ill people involved. They're going to need our help, and then you do your call-outs from there.
How were you involved were you helping to treat patients that day, or were you working with families? Were you organizing?
A little bit of everything. I wasn't caring directly for the patients that day, but I was the hospital incident commander, so we called an incident command within the hour. And as the incident commander, you've got your chiefs you've got to work with, planning, logistics, operations, and they have their assigned tasks and people that report to them. So you'd have, say, a planning chief that would need to get some awareness in the operating room, supplies, things of that nature. So it filtered down from there. We were involved in receiving the families as well, and that was definitely one of the most memorable moments that will stick with me for the rest of my life, was having the family members come in and looking for their loved ones and having questions about their loved ones. Sometimes we were able to reassure them that we have them, and sometimes we couldn't. They didn't arrive. And those were definitely one of the most memorable moments, when people were hoping that their family member was going to arrive and they didn't.
So that is Dr. Sean Young, Chief Operating Officer at Winnipeg's Health Sciences Centre, in conversation with CBC's Alana Cole about what the response was like on June 15th last year. This Saturday will mark the 1 year anniversary of what happened, the province's deadliest bus crash. We have lots of special coverage and many stories, including the one I mentioned with a woman who survived. Please go to our website for more details on cbc.ca/Manitoba. And if you're listening to CBC this morning and you want to weigh in, if you're mindful this year later, if you were involved that day, or if you're up in the Dauphin and Carberry area and you have a message to the community about how the community came together to support the survivors and the families left behind as well, you can always share with CBC, and we'll share it on the airwaves, 788-3205.
There are stories you just can't stop thinking about. They take you somewhere, they introduce you to someone, they share something new with you. Liftoff. Those are the stories you want to share with your friends, and CBC's award-winning documentary team is bringing them to you every week on Storylines. Storylines, new this season on CBC Radio 1, and always on demand on the CBC Listen app.
It is 10 to 7 right now on 89.3, and part of being at the Downtown Y today on 301 Vaughan is getting to know the folks who use this place. How long have you been a member here?
More than 20 years.
That's amazing. Have you always done the pool exercises? Or
pool and cycling, then I did yoga today. Before I did, what's this, the high-low? But I'm old already, I'm 72.
What do you like about the Y?
I like to work out, you know.
But the Y isn't only about the workout. It is also about a lot of changing programs here. It's a dynamic, complex, and actually rapidly changing community the Downtown Y serves. So the mission is to help folks reach their full potential. But next on the show, we're going to talk a little bit about how that happens. Part of it is by helping people find a sense of belonging and a sense of place and a sense of home. But as the community's changed outside the Y here in downtown Winnipeg, they've had to choose how they meet those, how they meet those needs. So to help us understand how that's happening, Jenny Stusser joins us now live at the Y. She's the General Manager of Community Programs here. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what changes have you seen specifically in the downtown core in recent years that have affected you here at the Y?
I mean, the Downtown Y is a constantly evolving place, and a big part of the work that we do here is our newcomer services. We've seen, obviously, an influx of newcomers joining us here in Canada, and the Y is here to welcome them and open their doors by providing some services for them specifically.
Things like what do you provide now?
So we offer a few different programs. So our English language training, and what's great about that is not only are we offering English language training, but we also have childcare for newcomer children at the same time. We recognize that for parents that can be a barrier when they arrive as they're learning their English and developing those skills. So we have childcare programs that happen in conjunction with that English language training, as well as a newcomer youth wellness program that we run in partnership with schools.
I know that we're going to hear some of those programs and people who use them in the next hour of the show, but to childcare, people might not realize the Y is the largest childcare provider in the province.
It is.
What have you seen in terms of demand around that then?
I mean, lots of demand. We recognize that there's a need for childcare right now, and the Y is constantly looking at how we can better meet that need. Like a lot of different areas, the Y is here to support some of our greatest needs in our community, and that can be challenging. But we are the largest childcare provider, and always looking at ways to be able to expand those services.
Like, how many spaces do you have, and do you have a wait list then? Or?
We do have wait lists, and we constantly are monitoring those wait lists.
Yeah.
As you can imagine, that's challenging in and of itself. But we, beyond childcare, look to offer services and supports for families like day camp, after-school programs, drop-ins, open swims, all of that, trying to help families in our community to support their kids and have healthy, kind of active lifestyles.
Yesterday we had a report that we were talking about on CBC because it was just released. It was the state of the inner city. And so, of course, the downtown here, part of the inner city. And it was the headline on our story. I have it right here. Winnipeg's inner city in state of crisis. More funding is needed with grassroots leadership. And so the idea yesterday when we were doing the interview was all about how grassroots responses are really the best ways to meet people where they're at, because otherwise they can get lost in these bigger governmental systems and people get missed. So when you think about the biggest needs you're looking at here at the Y, if someone's struggling finding a job or finding mental health supports, like, what's the top need that you're seeing from people?
I think a huge need we're seeing, and the importance of the Y downtown is providing a place for a safe place for community. I think for people to just come together, connect from all walks of life, and to be able to access services. I mean, in our newcomer services programs alone, although they're providing English language training, they're a huge support to newcomers by navigating systems, helping them build relationships, connecting them with services. And we see that connection piece as being a big part of our role, and just people in the community really needing a place to be able to come and be together and feel that sense of belonging, as you mentioned kind of at the beginning.
I wonder if some of that comes from when you think about downtown, and especially if you think from the newcomer population point of view, people would come here, but I mean, then all of a sudden, you're in your apartment in the middle of a big city, and where do you go to connect? I'm just looking around here, and people are really using the space. It almost feels more like there's a community center vibe here as well.
Yeah, and that's the goal, and that's a big part of the model that we're trying to really work towards and drive home. We're more than just a gym. As you can see, that the floor hockey happening there has connected people from all different parts of probably the city and community, and that's a big part of what the Y does, is bringing people together.
Swimming has been at the Y since, we're going to hear about that a little later too, but it's been a part of the Y since the Y first opened. It was the first indoor pool ever in the province, actually, not here on Vaughan, but in the original building. How has the need for swimming lessons, though, changed in recent years?
Yeah, we've definitely seen a kind of a continuous uptake, especially coming out of pandemic, as we reconnect with those services and those programs. We increased our swim lessons capacity significantly last year by about 40% to better kind of cater to those needs. And we offer them across all of our hubs. Here at downtown, what's really unique is we have a come and go lesson for those that maybe can't register for your 8-week sessions, but want to start building on their skills in their swim program or their swim set. So they can come here and be able to do kind of more one-off lessons as well.
What need can't you meet? Where it's like, growing, changing, you're trying to keep up with everything. But what's the biggest challenge from that respect that you're, if you dream big, what you'll be able to do next?
Oh, gosh. What we can do next. I think the magic of the Y is always dreaming big. And I think for us, it's just continuing to be able to expand our services to meet those needs. We see that there's a high demand for newcomer services, for mental health services, for childcare. And it's just us continuously engaging with partners and other members of the community to see how we can meet that need. So it's expanding, I think, of what we're doing and doing well already and continuing to respond to where those needs are in the community.
Thank you for being with us.
Great. Thanks for having me.
That's Jenny Stusser live on CBC, the General Manager of Community Programs here at the Downtown Y. It has been in our community for 145 years. They just passed that milestone in May. And we're here live for the morning. It's our community studio. It is 3 minutes now to 7 o'clock. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Let's touch base with Heather Wells, who's back at CBC on Portage Ave with our headlines.
Good morning. Well, RCMP believe they have recovered the body of a missing Winnipeg woman. 29-year-old Brittany Dawn Story was reported missing June 6. Her friends say she was in a video chat when she told them she just hit a tree. And this week, police found a submerged vehicle with a body inside, which they believe is Brittany, and an autopsy will be done to confirm identity. Time is ticking down on the Tuxedo provincial by-election. We're going to take a look at how that race is shaping up as the NDP try to steal a seat from the Tories. That's coming up in our next local news at 7:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
Well, I keep mentioning this clear sky downtown. It is mainly sunny across Winnipeg right now. It's 12 degrees downtown. We have a mix of sun and cloud in our forecast. We do have a 30% chance of late morning and afternoon showers. Man, I feel like a broken record. But yeah, we've got a risk of a thunderstorm this afternoon once again as well. The humidex will be up around 25, so it could feel a little sticky today in the city. The commute so far is going fine. I don't have any special notes. Dylan Longhurst is covering the commute though, so call Dylan if there's an issue, 788-3093. Still ahead, we're going to have a look back at the Downtown Y as we try to understand how the Y continues to transform Winnipeg's downtown, geographically being right in the center here of Winnipeg. So stay tuned. And also, what are they looking for in terms of how Winnipeg's going to develop around the Downtown Y? Lots of big plans when you look to Portage Place, which is right next door. So stay tuned. We're going to have more discussion about that. Also in the next hour of the program, mental health has been mentioned repeatedly in our first hour of our special broadcast. If you struggle with your mental health, there's a chance you may be referred to the Y. We're going to hear from two women who've learned to manage their mental health through courses that are offered here downtown. And coming up at 10 to 8 to News of the Day, we're going to build on what the Premier had to say yesterday. The Manitoba government says it is one step closer to searching a Winnipeg area landfill for the remains of 2 victims of an admitted serial killer. But what are the steps through that? In case you missed the details, the Premier actually had quite a lot to share, and we're going to hear it in the next hour of Information Radio. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team here live at the Downtown Y, 301 Vaughan. Come on down, say hello, and join us at our community studio. The World Report is coming up next.
Today on The Current.
We as customers don't see the value that we're getting for this additional amount.
It's called drip pricing. All those extra fees that show up and how much you actually pay for something that weren't in the initial price. Experts say Canada needs to crack down so consumers can trust what they see. That's coming up on The Current.
The Current with Matt Galloway. This morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland. And on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Marcia Young. We're getting troubling details about sexual violence in the Israel-Hamas war. For months, there have been stories from survivors and allegations in the news. Independent experts have been conducting a detailed investigation backed by the United Nations, and today they are reporting what they found. Julia Wong is in our London bureau going over the details. And Julia, what are these experts revealing?
So there are 2 reports, one focusing on the October 7th attacks and another focusing on Israel's response in the months following. Published by the UN Commission of Inquiry, the reports indicate both Israel and Hamas committed war crimes, including murder, outrages upon personal dignity, torture, and inhumane or cruel treatment. One report found evidence suggesting Hamas and other Palestinian groups decapitated Israelis, set houses on fire while there were people inside, and it also finds there was a pattern of sexual violence in the attacks. The second report finds Israeli bombardments have wiped out whole families, that civilians were forced into harm's way when attacks were carried out, and civilians were killed even when holding white flags. That report also states it heard accounts of gender-based violence carried out by Israeli troops, including public stripping, removing of veils, and physical abuse of women who refused to undergo searches. And it finds Israelis, through their military response, have committed the war crime of intentionally using starvation as a type of warfare. Israel's diplomatic mission to the UN told Reuters that Israel rejects these findings, and so far there's been no response from Hamas.
Thank you, Julia.
Thank you.
The CBC's Julia Wong reporting from London. Climate change and artificial intelligence could radically alter our way of life, and G7 leaders are supposed to talk about those challenges at their summit starting tomorrow in Italy. But wars in Ukraine and the Middle East could derail their agenda. Rafi Boudjikanian is traveling with the Prime Minister, and he brings us the latest.
Trudeau is heading to the G7 in Italy today, and the world's foremost economies will have Russia and Ukraine on their minds.
This is a moment of real uncertainty.
Roland Paris is a former foreign policy advisor to Trudeau and now teaches international affairs at the University of Ottawa.
So it's really important for these leaders to come together and demonstrate that they can do something.
There's a sense of what that something could be. A Canadian government official told journalists the G7 is working on providing more support to Ukraine using frozen Russian assets.
It takes time to translate from a check being written.
Dave Perry says the help can't come soon enough. He is with the Canadian Global Affairs Institute. He says Russia has been making territorial gains.
We're seeing the impact every day for the next little while, unfortunately, of long period of really reduced donations.
The G7 says it will also discuss the Israel-Hamas conflict and other challenges like climate change and even disinformation campaigns and foreign interference, weighing heavily on leaders facing elections like U.S. President Joe Biden this year or Trudeau next year. Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC News, Ottawa.
A top business group is warning Canada could face diplomatic isolation if it does not boost defense spending. So far, Canada does not have a concrete plan to meet NATO's benchmark target. And as Murray Brewster tells us, the Business Council of Canada has written to the Prime Minister asking for one.
This is an area where we have been called out.
Goldie Hyder is the president of the Business Council of Canada.
It used to be called out quietly in Washington. Now it's being done very publicly.
And that is what the business community is getting concerned about. Allies becoming more vocal that Canada has not explicitly endorsed the NATO benchmark of spending 2% of the gross domestic product on defense. Nor, more importantly, has it articulated a plan to get there. Hyder says Canada is already facing diplomatic and economic isolation by being left out of organizations like AUKUS, the US, British, and Australian Defence Pact.
This is a moment for Canada to say, we hear you, we get it, we want back in.
The Liberal government's new defence policy projects Canada will hit 1.76% of GDP by the end of the decade. Foreign Affairs Minister Mélanie Joly at a Toronto conference yesterday said there will be more defence spending. It just hasn't been approved.
I'm convinced that we can be on the path to 2%.
U.S. Democratic Senator Chris Coons was on the same panel as Joly and recently signed a letter calling on Canada to meet its NATO commitment.
If we can see a path towards 2% that's credible, that will go a long way towards strengthening our defense relationship.
In order to meet the NATO target, Ottawa would have to spend about $64 billion a year on defense, double the planned budget for this year. Murray Brewster, CBC News, Ottawa.
The Hong Kong government has canceled the passports of 6 activists under the new national security law. That includes former pro-democracy lawmaker Nathan Law and 5 others. They are all accused of endangering Hong Kong national security. The government says they have absconded to the UK. Manitoba's government is expected to announce more details on the search of a Winnipeg area landfill next week. Premier Wab Kinew says the search for the remains of 2 murdered Indigenous women will begin this summer and could last more than a year. Karen Pauls has the story, And a warning, some of the details are disturbing.
They're going to start right away, like hopefully by the end of summer or something. They're going to be working they can work right through winter.
Donna Bartlett's granddaughter, Mercedes Myron, is one of the 2 Indigenous women believed to be buried in a Winnipeg area landfill. Bartlett was one of the family members who met with Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew yesterday.
So I'm really happy. My girl's happy. We'll get her home.
It's believed Morgan Harris and Myron were buried in the landfill in the spring of 2022. They, along with Rebecca Contois and a 4th unknown woman, were killed by Jeremy Skibitsky. The remains of Contois were found in another landfill. Skibitsky is admitted to sexually assaulting the women before killing them and having sex with their bodies. He's pleading not criminally responsible because of a mental disorder. A judge will deliver his verdict on July 11th. Kinew says a lot of work has been going on behind the scenes, but the government couldn't talk about it to avoid influencing the trial.
The families have been put through so much and are just coming out of what I can only imagine was a very difficult 6-week trial period.
The official search is slated to start this summer, and it will be done by hand.
We are going to ensure that the people who do conduct this search are kept safe while we deliver on the compassionate mission here, which is try to recover the remains of 2 of our fellow Manitobans.
The provincial and federal governments have each committed $20 million to the search, which could last until early next year. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A new Ontario law could make the game of soccer a little safer. All portable nets used by members of the public now have to be securely fastened to the ground. The law received royal assent last week. It all started with a tragedy in 2017. Nicole Williams has the latest.
Garrett was an amazing kid. He really was.
It's been 7 years since David Mills lost his son Garrett. The 15-year-old from Napanee, Ontario, had been playing with his friends in a park when he decided to do chin-ups off a 200-pound portable soccer net. The net fell on top of him and killed him. Now there's a new Ontario law inspired by Garrett.
The idea that maybe this law will, keep another family from having to go through the heartache and the trauma that we've had to endure.
Garrett's Legacy Act requires all movable soccer nets used by the public to be securely fastened. If not, they risk fines up to $5,000. It may seem like extreme measures, but advocates say more than 40 deaths across North America, mostly of children, are caused by soccer nets. Bill Mikolopoulos is a coach in Ottawa.
I have seen kids, not only in Ottawa, but across Canada, when we go to tournaments, climb up on metal netting.
Kim Gamble is the executive director for Ottawa City Soccer Club. She says it's still important to teach players about using equipment safely.
The education, I think, is a part and parcel of making sure that people know what the nets are used for and the importance of that, of staying off of them.
For David Mills, the new law is about more than saving lives. It's a legacy for his son, gone far too soon. Nicole Williams, CBC News, Ottawa.
New statistics show citizens are leaving New Zealand in record numbers, and a lot of them are heading to Australia.
Do you come from a land down under? Women go and men wonder.
So far this year, more than 80,000 New Zealand citizens have left the country. That is 41% higher than last year. Experts say part of the reason for the big migration is New Zealand's high cost of living. Young professionals and new graduates say they face job shortages at home, and Australia often recruits in New Zealand, promising higher wages and better working conditions. Also Vegemite, all the Vegemite you want. That is the latest national and international news. I'm Marcia Young.
It has really changed my life. A much better person than I used to be. I'm on a course of self-improvement.
And what brought you here initially?
I got a referral from Mood Disorders Association of Manitoba, and bit by bit, course by course, well, the courses have been everything from, as I said, stress management to boundaries, and I find the Y my favorite place right now to go to, for activities and to keep me off the streets. Hi, my name is Ivan Shuchuk. You're listening to Information Radio, live from the downtown Y on CBC Radio 1.
Well, Ivan set it up. We are live at the Y this morning on the second floor, right in the middle of the gym with your morning show. This is our community studio at 301 Vaughan, overlooking a beautiful wall of windows, people working out in the background, and we're learning about the Y and its focus in 2024. A lot of that focus is helping people find a place to belong. The programs are always being tweaked to meet that goal. We heard a little bit about that in the first hour. Today, we're going to hear more. Also, we're going to dig into the growth in the number of classes they offer to help people improve their mental health here at the Y and in our downtown area. Also, we'll have a look back at some of the Y's history in Winnipeg. So stay tuned for that, including something very cool that was recently found in the basement. We'll let that unfold in a moment. Right now, though, let's get into the news. Heather Wells has our headlines.
Good morning. Premier Wab Kinew says the project to search the Prairie Green landfill for the remains of 2 First Nations women started months ago. The province has approved an environmental license. A healing space building is under construction now to be installed on that site in July. And Kinew says a test search will be done this month. We'll hear more what the plans are in store for this summer as the search will begin. And on Saturday, it will be 1 year since a crash on the Trans-Canada Highway near Carberry left 17 people dead. 8 others were injured. The first responder and medical response was unprecedented. We're going to hear from one of those first on the scene in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
Well, I was just looking, Abby, at the current conditions, and I guess a thunderstorm started over in Brandon, but it's really nice in downtown Winnipeg this morning.
Yeah, it's nice downtown Winnipeg, and for folks in Brandon already seeing that thunderstorm and lightning. It's 11 currently in Brandon. Winnipeg is at 15. It's clear outside. It's sunny. We're looking at a mix of sun and clouds today with a chance of showers later this morning into the afternoon period. And there's a risk of thunderstorms sometime this afternoon. We're heading for a high of 23. Now, tonight, it will also be partly cloudy, a 60% chance of showers and maybe some thunderstorm this evening and into the midnight period. But right now, Winnipeg, we're enjoying lots of sunshine. It's 15 degrees. Today's forecast calls for a mix of sun and clouds, chance of showers, possible thunderstorm this afternoon, and we're heading to a high of 23.
All right, Abby, thanks.
You're welcome.
Let's get into the commute. Dylan Longhurst is filling in for Corey while Corey's on site here. Hi, Dylan.
Hey, Marcy. Yeah, a couple things that we're seeing out there in the commute that just came up. Lajmodier and Abinogi-Mikana, there's a stalled vehicle in the northbound curb lane. So if you're traveling there, you'll want to keep left to pass. As well, we got a call from Barmeet about Route 90 southbound between Dublin and Wellington. Traffic there moving slow due to construction that's starting in that area. So if Route 90 southbound is on your commute today, you might be caught off guard by that. Just slow traffic today. Anything else you're seeing out there? Give us a call, 204-788-3093.
Well, it's 7:14 a.m. I'm Marcy Marcuso on your Wednesday morning out at the Y, our community studio, the downtown YMYWCA at 301 Vaughan. Well, Bina Jensen was agreeable enough to put her shoulder workout aside and have a seat with us on CBC. She's been a supervisor here at the Y and also volunteered and been part of the Y actually for a long time. Hi, Bina.
Hello.
So when did you first start volunteering for the Y? Like, how young were you?
12.
12 years old. No, not downtown. Which Y was that?
Elmwood Kildonan YMCA on Kimberley.
How did you get involved there? What were you doing there? Is it a leadership program or something?
As a child, I was there a lot, and when I got old enough, which was 12, to join the Leader in Training program, I joined, and they had activities and taught leadership skills and encouraged the youth to get involved in the Y. And so I started in the pool teaching swimming.
I love that. Now, what were you doing before that? You joined the leadership program. You said you were there a lot. Were you swimming on your own, or what were you doing there?
I took lessons since I was 11 months old. I took basketball and some gymnastics.
Wow.
Mostly swimming.
It's been part of your life a long time. Do you view the Y as a gym or as a community space?
Community space, definitely. I use the gym a lot now as an adult, but as a kid, it was my second home.
I love that. We're hearing actually this morning from a lot of people who are echoing that. And also how people build community within this building, sort of get tapped on the shoulder. Like we had a guest, Tess Vedette, in the first hour saying he'd never played hockey in his life and he got pulled into a hockey game. And now that's his community in a lot of ways. Now, one of the other things that is really cool is you during, especially the pandemic years and such, when your role as a supervisor, sort of were looking after the building. And you uncovered some really cool things in the basement. Tell me a little bit about that.
As a supervisor, you're supposed to go on all the floors, check all the rooms, make sure things are okay. And in the basement, I just noticed old stuff. The basement's since been cleaned up a lot during the pandemic, but I noticed some old stuff, and there was this cool old wood box with a Y symbol on it, like the red triangle, and Halifax and Pier 21, I believe, and it was, oh my God. So I opened it, and there was old pictures and broken trophies, and I just started gathering these old items, and I cleaned out a storage room and put them in there and started cataloging them.
I love that. So like Pier 21, obviously Halifax, as you mentioned, like that's one of the big immigration piers where people come into Canada. Were the things in there, the trophies, like they were all Y history?
Y history. There used to be, huge leagues, basketball leagues, usually. And so the trophies weren't that old, but they were old black and white photos of like 1910, 1913 of all these youth, young men in basketball outfits.
At the Y?
Yeah.
What have you done with all of that?
They are in boxes, covered up, so they can be safe from the dust. And I've started an inventory so that I can give to management so they know what we have and what they need to do with it.
Got it.
And some of the items, the papers there was a bunch of old papers, like letters from 1910. And those last week were donated to Manitoba Archives so that they can hopefully keep them safe, record them somewhere, and have them for prosperity.
I keep interrupting you to say I love it because I just, any kind of a historical story I'm obsessed with. I can just see the pictures. I want to hear more. I want to learn how those people were playing basketball back in the day here in Winnipeg, right? It's amazing. It's so cool. For you, when you think about the Y and its place and how important it is in your life, what is its meaning today?
It's still a huge part of my life. I'm here a lot, and I like what it's offering to the community, especially downtown. That's my why now, is downtown, and I like coming every day and seeing the regulars smiling and saying hi, even if I don't know their names, and knowing it's a place for people to come and create their own community.
Thank you so much for letting us, sharing the story of the archives and sharing the story of what the Y means to you this morning and letting us interrupt your workout. Appreciate it.
Can I go back?
You can. Headphones off and get back there and work on those shoulders, would you? That's Bina Jensen with us. Lives in the Exchange, volunteers here, and also does some supervisory work at the Y. Found some incredible archives in the basement. Now, when you talk about the history of the Y, it's no surprise that there's a lot of history to discover, because the Y this year celebrated 145 years in our community. That makes it the longest running charitable organization in Manitoba. The Y has been serving families and teens since 1879, if you didn't do that math quite quick enough. That's when it opened its first community meeting space. Now, since then, it has had to, of course, adapt, change, and respond to what the community needs. So Cordella Friesen is the group's president and CEO and has been waiting to talk to us here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for having us here.
Well, thanks for being here.
So what was the idea behind the Y? Like, if you go back in the day, speaking of history, 145 years ago when it started?
Yeah, so when it originally started, it was a reading room. And it was a gathering place for young men in particular. And the way the original documents talk about it is to avoid their vices. And so I don't know if that's any different today, where we want people to be in community. But yeah, that was the original part, was a reading room. And then it grew so fast. And so they built, YMCA at the time built the Burks, what's now known as the Burks Building, and outgrew that super quickly as well. Like this need for community space, for a community center for people to come together. And then 113 years ago, 30 businessmen came together and said, we need a bigger space, but we want to be off of Portage because of all the dust that was on Portage at the time, and fundraise the money for the downtown Y, where we're at today, in just 10 days.
Wow.
So, yeah.
This building, actually, 301 Vaughan, is a heritage building.
Yes.
Where the Y was before, the Burke's building, people shouldn't be thinking of Main Street. They need to be thinking of Portage and Smith.
Yeah.
That big red building that's there, it's really iconic. You can, but that is where the Y used to be. What's cool is, there must have been then a pool in there, because the Y was the site, I think, of the first city pool. Is that right?
The first indoor swimming pool was built by the Y. And so we have a long, long history of aquatics in the city.
What changes have you seen in the community in recent years, if you look even just in the last 5 years or so that you're really leaning into getting involved in?
Yeah, so really before the pandemic hit, we really were focused on a lot of people that work downtown, work out and then therefore work out downtown. And when the pandemic hit, we had to ask ourselves, who are we and who do we belong to? And you have the vantage point from here of all these apartment blocks in the community that actually exists downtown. And so really it was about, what is our relevancy to the downtown community? They still need us. We have 1,000 people coming through this building every single day. And it was about adapting to those needs, because there is no community center downtown. We are it, and trying to figure out, okay, what does that mean next? And so we did a lot of work to figure out what are the needs of today.
Now, I know in the last hour we heard about the daycare needs. We heard about some language needs for people and how the Y is meeting both of those things. Mental health challenges, I know. How has the demographic changed, and how's the Y meeting those changes? What's the demographic that you look to?
Yeah, so we did look at the demographics for this particular neighborhood. There's a high turnover rate of newcomer families, so they might move here but not stay here necessarily, so very transitional. There is a high percentage of single parents, so over 40% that are single parents. So we are a part of this kind of community that desperately needs like these kinds of spaces that help support them and support like raising their children.
Can you give us an example of what mental health challenges you've seen in youth specifically, and how some of your programming has helped?
Yeah, so one in 5 18 to 24-year-olds experience chronic anxiety. That's what's being reported. It's a serious issue. And so one of the programs that we offer is something called Y-Mind. And it's group therapy that looks at mitigating for anxiety. So teaching the tools to young people and youth about how to mitigate. And so it has had incredible success, like youth being able to go on their first bus ride to their first job, for example, and be able to keep that job. And so it's all about teaching how to mitigate, so that when you feel these feelings, what do you do next? And so incredible need for programs that help people and young people work through anxiety.
It's interesting because you're part of the wider community as well downtown, which is also about to go through a huge transformation. So let's just talk about Portage Place, because you can pretty much throw baseball at it from where we're sitting this morning. What do you hope is going to be happening? The Portage Place, the Bay, down the road, how do you envision some of the plans you've already heard about for mixed-use development, more housing, more residents? How does that sort of fit into what your mission and goals are here at the Y?
Yeah, well, we're in the middle of a redevelopment of our own downtown Y. So with all these other developments, we have to be really coordinated and saying, okay, what are you offering? What can we offer? How can we partner together? And we really are on the hip of Portage Place, ultimately, and we are connected. And we have seen empty spaces. We're surrounded by empty buildings across the street, all of our streets, besides, the community behind us. And so really trying to be coordinated. And we are so excited about the residences. We really do believe that affordable housing, but also accessible housing, social housing is incredibly important in this part of downtown. We all would also say that community spaces are still needed, right? So we know that there's a lot of people that just walk through Portage Place and need some places to receive other supports that we don't necessarily offer. So being just more coordinated, I think, ultimately. But
what other supports are you talking about?
So, for example, harm reduction.
Okay.
Right. So when we talk about what is going on downtown and we see the needs, people ask us even at the Y, why don't you have security? Well, we don't need it because we are trained in emergency first response and first aid to be able to respond appropriately. But we do see needs, especially when it comes to harm reduction. Yeah.
Lots to talk about and explore. Grateful you're having us here this morning. Thank you, Cordella.
Thank you so much for being here.
Cordella Friesen's president and CEO of the YMCA YWCA of Winnipeg. Winnipeg. So later in the program, by the way, we're going to hear stories from people who've accessed the mental health programs here at the Y that Cordella was alluding to. And if you want to call about how you use the Y, maybe you're listening and you're just not here, but you have something to say about the Y, you can call us 788-3205.
We carry a world of information in our pockets because we want to know. Breaking news that shapes our world. Staying on top of stories around the globe. And connected close to home. It's news you can trust. Delivered when you want and where you want. On Canada's News app. Now with CBC Radio 1. Local and live. Download the CBC News app for free.
Sounds of a morning match of pickleball here at the downtown Y. Stay tuned. This is our community studio for the morning. We'll learn how the Y is growing to meet the needs of the changing downtown population in Winnipeg. Couldn't let the show go by with a little more pickleball. There's lots of different things going on around me here. So we've got morning sports coming up, and I feel like I'm in the right venue, Khalil Hassan-Ali.
Definitely.
I've got the floor hockey game that's happening. There's people in the pool downstairs. Behind me, there's people that are lifting their weights and doing skipping, and I'm feeling extremely lazy sitting here talking about sports.
And just a little foreshadowing, we're not going to feel healthier by the end of this update also. Just a little foreshadowing.
Okay. So let's start with the Blue Bombers. They had their final practice before flying to Ottawa yesterday. What stood out?
So the status of running back Brady Oliveira remains up in the air. While it was a closed practice to the media, head coach Mike O'Shea revealed that Oliveira once again did not practice. His status remains questionable for the game tomorrow. Expect Johnny Augustine or Bailey Feltman to slot in should the reigning most outstanding Canadian be unavailable. One player who for sure won't be suiting up is Kenny Lawler. The Bombers placed him on the 6-game injury list with a broken arm. With their top guy out, it will put more pressure on the rest of the receivers, especially rookie Carrick Wheatfall, who was taking Lawler's spot in practice. Nick Dembski, though, says he's confident that the young talent will be able to fill Lawler's absence.
This is a really good young core group of receivers that we brought in. There wasn't too many returning guys, so I think we kind of took it on our shoulders to show them the way and show them how this offense works. And I'm excited to see what they can do. Obviously we've got some guys that are stepping up for Kenny. But as vets, we're taking it upon our shoulders as well to go out there and make plays and set the standard right.
A lot of focus was put on the quarterback matchup of Zach Collaros against his former backup Drew Brown. There is another former Bomber facing his old team for the first time tomorrow. Winston Rose has signed with the Ottawa Redblacks. He won't be on the field, though, as he's only signed to their practice roster. So they say exposure the team is getting now that they're on the world stage like this is the seed which is needed to grow the game here in Canada. It's the first time the Red and White have ever made it to the T20 tournament. BC's Aaron Johnson says the sport, it's only getting bigger and attracting more players.
One would hope that it will help to push cricket in Canada further, and the fact that you are asking us these questions is show that it speaks volume that we have represented ourselves very well, I think. And yes, we would have liked to win one or two more games if luck went our way, but I'm pretty sure that the cricketing world have some amount of respect for us at this point.
Canada's next game is going to be on Saturday, Marcy, against the powerhouse team from India.
And the world of competitive eating is also in the headlines this morning, Khalil, which obviously speaks to your spoiler alert.
Yeah. So July 4th, American Independence Day, synonymous with fireworks and, for me, hot dog eating.
With 76 Nathan's Hot Dogs and Bun, a new world record. Joey Chestnut!
So that was back in 2021 when Joey Chestnut ate 76 hot dogs in 10 minutes at the Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Competition that takes place in New York. But the sponsor now has said that he will not be taking part, at least this year, at the competition. That's because he signed an endorsement deal with a rival plant-based brand. A spokesperson for the MLE, which is Major League Eating, says it would be like Michael Jordan representing both Nike and Adidas. So some food talk this morning, Marcy.
Just up in the hot dog world.
In the hot
Don't
dog
go
world,
to those plant-based dogs.
Yeah.
Don't turn your back on the meat.
How could you do this? How could you do this?
Wow, man. I don't know how you digest any of it if you're eating 76 of anything, frankly. All right. Thanks, Khalil. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Marcy. Bye.
That is in for Scott Regehr, Khalil Hassanali with Morning Sports on CBC. I'm Marcy Marcusa. We're live at the Downtown Y, 301 Vaughan Street. And thanks so much for joining us as we broadcast from our community studio today. Nice sky out there in Winnipeg. And we still ahead in this half hour of the program are going to lean in more to the idea of the mental health programs here as we meet some of the people who are actually using the services here at the Y. Stay tuned. Right now, though, your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 7:30. It is beautiful. Lots of sunshine out there, 15 degrees. We're going to see a mix of sun and clouds. There is a risk of a thunderstorm this afternoon and a high today of 23. The initial phase of the Prairie Green landfill search is complete. Premier Wab Kinew says the project to search the landfill for the remains of 2 First Nations women started months ago. The province has approved an environmental license. A healing space building is under construction now and will be installed on the site in July. Kinew says a test search will also be done this month. He says officials have decided a manual search will be better than using a conveyor belt. Searchers will be hired and trained over the summer.
There is going to be extensive training as to what the searchers are actually looking for. We may be looking for something very small. We might be looking for something that might not immediately catch the eye. So these are going to have to be folks with a ton of training and education provided to them in terms of what exactly they are searching for.
This project could go into early 2026. Kinew believes the $40 million committed by 2 levels of government will cover the costs. Saturday marks 1 year since the bus crash on the Trans-Canada near Carberry left 17 people dead, 8 others injured. First responders and hospital staff from different communities came together in an unprecedented response. Dr. Sean Young, Chief Operating Officer at Winnipeg's Health Sciences Centre, cared for most of the survivors.
The part that stands out for the most for me was seeing the families, meeting the families and talking to some of the families and seeing what they were going through and how this is impacting them. So for me, it was that is the part that will stick with me forever.
People will gather in Dauphin on Saturday to honor the victims of the crash. A monument dedicated to all those on the bus will also be unveiled. RCMP believe they have recovered the body of a missing Winnipeg woman. 29-year-old Brittany Dawn Story was reported missing June 6th. Friends say she was in a video chat when she told them she just hit a tree west of the White Shell. This week, further information led police to a pond in the area of Molson, that's near Beausejour. And yesterday, an RCMP underwater recovery team pulled out her submerged vehicle with a body inside. An autopsy will be done to confirm identity. For the second time in 8 months, it is election time in Tuxedo. A by-election for the vacant provincial constituency is underway. CBC's Bartley Kivas reports.
Hello. Hi, Carla. How are you?
Good. Carla Compton knocks on a friendly door on Elmhurst Road. That's not unusual, except Compton is an NDP candidate in a provincial district that's only ever elected Tories.
They're ready for something new. They're ready for someone new.
In its 43-year existence, Tuxedo has only elected 2 MLAs, Gary Filmon and Heather Stephenson, both of them former PC leaders and premiers. But with the NDP in power right now and the Tories without a permanent leader, the pressure's on the PCs to hold on to the seat. Their candidate, lawyer Lawrence Pinsky, says the NDP is doing a poor job.
I see a provincial government that's really separating people, that's doing terribly on the economy.
The Liberals are running Jamie Fow, a PhD candidate in community health science. The Green Party is running its leader, Janine Gibson. The Tuxedo by-election takes place on Tuesday. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
An independent study into the first months of the Israel-Hamas war alleges both sides in the conflict are guilty of committing a wide range of atrocities. Endorsed by the United Nations, it says Hamas and other armed Palestinian groups have deliberately killed and mistreated civilians. That includes sexual violence against Israeli women. The study also says Israeli forces have engaged in forced starvation, murder, and intentional attacks on civilians. Israeli officials are rejecting the findings, and at this point there has been no response from Hamas. Celebrated French singer Françoise Hardy has died.
C'est le temps de l'amour, le temps des copains et de l'aventure.
RD rose to global prominence in the early 1960s, singing melancholy, sentimental ballads in French, English, German, and Italian. Her career spanned more than 50 years and more than 30 studio albums. After a long fight with cancer, RD died this week in Paris at the age of 80.
On est les rois du monde.
You can hear more national and international news coming up on World Report at 8, and you can find more Manitoba news updated throughout the morning at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right, thanks very much, Heather Wells. It is 7:35 a.m. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team at Information Radio. We're out in the community. Our studio this morning is the downtown Y. So there's people wearing goggles and holding hockey sticks and working out behind me. And we're on the second floor right in the middle of the gym. The pool on the first floor, of course. And lots going on here in terms of specialty programs. We're going to hear more coming up. Right now, though, let's dip into your Wednesday morning, see how things are going out there weather-wise. And Abby Adiyemi back on 541 Portage Ave at CBC has your details.
15 and sunny in Winnipeg. We're expecting a mix of sun and clouds today with a chance of showers later this morning into the afternoon period. There's also a risk of thunderstorm, and we're heading to a high of 23. Heading west to Brandon, where it is 11 degrees, currently experiencing a thunderstorm with light rain showers. The winds will become breezy from the northwest this afternoon, and you'll be seeing a high of 24. Moving north to Thompson, where it's 8 degrees and mostly cloudy at the moment. For folks up there, expect a mix of sun and clouds throughout the day, and you'd see a high of 18. Further north in Churchill, it's still stuck at 1 with misty condition at the moment. You should be anticipating a mix of sun and clouds for the rest of the day, and a 60% chance of rain sometime this morning, coming with some breeze also, and you climb to a high of 3 degrees. Down in Dauphin, it's a pleasant 11 degrees, clear and sunny at the moment. Today you're going to see a mix of sun and clouds later with a chance of showers or thunderstorm and a high of 18. Gimli is currently at 11, sunny at the moment. For the Interlake region today, anticipate a blend of sun and clouds with a chance of showers and a risk of thunderstorm. Highs around 20. Steinbach is sitting at 13 and sunny. Looking ahead to your day, expect a mix of sun and clouds. Also a chance of showers late in the morning into the afternoon period with a risk of thunderstorm later in the day. Now, despite the chance of rain, temperatures expected to reach a high of 26. And finally, Morris, it is beautiful, 15 degrees and sunny at the moment. Today's forecast for the Pembina Valley region includes a mix of sun and clouds, a chance of showers and thunderstorm, and a high of 20. But in Winnipeg, we are at 12 degrees. We're at 15 rather. We're going to see a mix of sun and clouds, and we're climbing to 23.
All right, thanks, Abby.
You're welcome.
Dylan Longhurst, are you hearing anything on the commute line?
Good news on the commute line. Lajmodiere and Abinogi-Meekina, we talked about a stall there blocking the northbound curb lane. That has been cleared from the roadway, so all lanes are now open. No delays. If you see anything else out there on your commute, give us a call. 204-788-3093.
All right, thank you, Dylan. Well, when you walk past the downtown Y on Vaughan, where we are this morning, it is easy to underestimate just how much is going on here. CBC's Corey Funk learned about a program that flies a little under the radar, but it has a big impact.
Yeah, Marcy, when you kind of think of the Y, probably the first thing that comes to mind for folks is the fitness classes. We're in a gym, there's a big pool here, but actually lesser known are its courses actually to help people manage their mental health. So last week I stopped by the Y here, and I ended up speaking with two women who learned to manage their mental health struggles through some of those courses, and here's their stories.
Hi, I'm Jackie Ross. I've been coming to the Y since about 2004 because I was looking for swimming lessons for my daughter. I found that the public swimming lessons they were too expensive. It was hard to find spots, and there wasn't as many locations. So when my daughter was about 2 years old, we started coming to the Y for swimming lessons, and we found out they had a bunch of other programs. My ex-husband got involved in Taekwondo. My kids got involved in the kids programs. Eventually, they started coming to daycare at the Y. So my relationship with the Y started a while ago, and then as my kids grew up and became preteen age, I found out that they had mental health services programs, but I didn't take advantage of those for another 10 years just as I was working, and I didn't feel as though I needed them at that time, even though that I did. Because of the Y, I actually have done enough work with myself and my former psychiatrist that I'm actually in what's called remission for borderline. So borderline has more emotional aspects of it, and it also has impulsivity and erratic behaviors. But I find that a lot of those symptoms have lessened. So now I experience anxiety and I experience the distorted thoughts and thinking, but I have now the emotional control, which is why I say remission. So I'm doing this so I can maintain that, so I can be more self-aware, and that so I can learn. And the WISE programs are helping because we're taking things like boundaries, communication and relationships, self-esteem. They have so many different programs that they offer, and it offers so much information, and it's in a written format. So if you're willing to learn to help yourself, then this is a great place because it gives you the tools that you need. You just have to be willing to want and to do it.
Where do you think you'd be without the Y?
I don't think I'd be at the happy, calm place that I am right now. I wouldn't have the supports. I wouldn't have healthy friendships that I have made while I'm here.
Hi, my name is Paula Sigurniak.
And how long have you been coming to the Y for?
I've actually only been coming for a little over 2 years.
And what brought you here?
It was a referral from the hospital. I had a hospital stay. I have mental health challenges that I have to go through every day and take medication for and stuff.
Can you tell me a little bit about your challenges and what, how those brought you to this point?
Well, pretty much since I was a child, I didn't come from a very healthy family, and I developed anxiety and severe depression, and I've pretty much gone to every program in the city that they've allowed, every hospital I've been to. And I have gone to different programs and stuff, but they just never stuck. The doctors kind of gave me different diagnoses all the time and kind of didn't really know what medications. I've been on every medication possible, went into psychoses, and then ended up in the Victoria Hospital, and they gave me a referral to the Y, and I had no idea what to expect because I was quite confused when they referred me to the Y Mental Health Services. I had no idea what to expect. But when they referred me, I had some counseling sessions with one of the facilitators here, and I think it was 5 or 6 sessions, just to get a feel of what my needs are and what would serve my purpose and what would be good for me. And ever since then, it's been quite an amazing experience. I don't know what I would do without this program.
What is it that makes the programs here at the Y something that you feel actually works?
I think one of the really big things is that the facilitators are very accommodating, and also that they are there for you whenever you need to talk to them. If you have an issue with one of the programs or one of the classes or a conflict with one of the other peers that you're working with, they're always very accommodating, and I feel really safe here. I consider this I consider this a second home. I feel like I'm coming to my second home.
Melissa Gurniak and Jackie Ross speaking with CBC's Corey Funk. Well, joining me now live at the Y at 301 Vaughan is Tyler O'Brien, who says the Y has transformed his life. Hi, Tyler.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. So did anything run through your mind, or what was running through your mind, I should ask, when you were listening to Paula and Jackie share their stories of how the programs here have helped them?
Pretty much just the similarities in the stories that also have helped me. The program here was really amazing, and I actually didn't know that the program that I took, Y Mind, through New Directions, was actually funded and pushed by the YMCA, and that just ended up being a plus. So that's kind of where I got my Y membership. And previous to that, I've been going to the Y before, and it's just been the atmosphere, I think, is what I take from it, right? And the enjoyment of the fitness and everything.
You were referred to the Y, is that right? You got your pass, rather, through a program at school, maybe?
Yeah, exactly. When I was going to school, there was a lady there named Sarah who was taking, I guess, applications or kind of just pushing the project that they were doing. And I took advantage of it, and I ended up getting the Y pass out of there, which was really beneficial for everything. So.
It's a big thing to say it transformed your life. So what was going on in your life that you were struggling with or needing, that the Y helped you with?
Well, I separated from my last relationship, and I had to move back out of Vancouver, and I just moved back from from there back to Winnipeg, and I was going through kind of like a little dark patch there. And when I went to school and then I took that program, going back to the gym helped me physically, mentally, and everything. It kind of just was able to take my mind out of everything. And the programs here have been really, really beneficial, from the hockey, the soccer, and then working out as much as I can. So,
did you walk in skeptical, like, maybe this isn't going to do anything for me, or did you walk in hopeful and it, met your expectations, obviously?
Always a little hope. When I find a little branch there like that, I always try to latch on to something that feels like there might be a little bit of hope of something. And like I said, it benefited me in many ways, like learning the coping mechanisms and the skills to be able to handle some of these emotions when we go through our up and downs, which I call emotions. So.
Mm-hmm. Now, your mental health, obviously, you're learning coping skills for, but your physical health is transformed, I understand, as well. Tell me a bit about that. How are you different physically, and how is your health physically differently because of the Y?
Well, when I moved back to Winnipeg, I was considerably less weight, and so then I started really doing a little research when I went back to the gym and started eating better. And I've been working out almost 5 days a week, about 3 hours a day almost. And I could feel the transformation, just from how I was before to where I am at now. I could see the progress, and I think that's what keeps me grinding in it all. And it's an uplifting experience, and it keeps me motivated 100%.
How does the physical translate to, does that also impact better mental health that you're, when you're working out?
100%. I can't stress this enough. When I hear somebody else going through the same thing, I try to explain to them, the gym has changed my life, and I try to push it upon anybody else in a positive way, obviously. And I'm very grateful for the people here, always.
You came in with some other habits that weren't all that healthy. I heard you kicked smoking. Is that right?
Yeah, smoking, drinking, everything.
Wow.
I've been sober for a very long time now, and I'm very proud of that. And I've just been keeping it pushing, so it's been really nice.
Why does it work, the why, for all of these things? Is it because it's all here under one roof, or was it something about the environment and sense of community? Why do you think that it worked for you and for others? Why do you think it lands? Because sometimes programs are well-intentioned, but they don't quite work for people.
I think a lot of those are factored in when you talk about community, location, scenery. I guess you got a lot of nice scenery. There's a lot of great people here that are very helpful. I've noticed anybody I ever wanted to talk to in the gym that are working out that I wanted to ask tips from, everybody's been so helpful, along with the workers as well. And I've met a lot of really great people that I like to call friends now. So it's been an amazing experience. And
well, now you're the inspiration. So what do you want to say to Manitobans listening this morning that might be thinking maybe they're struggling with their own mental health challenges or other types of challenges as well? What would you say to them about trying to find hope? Do you have any advice about that?
There's always hope, even when there feels like there's none. Because I'm sure a lot of us have been there, done that. And I just want to say, in light also of Men's Mental Health Month, there's people out there that care. There's people out there that love you, and there's people out there that need you around. So don't give up and seek help. Talk to somebody. I feel like that's the biggest key factor there, is that a lot of us, male or female, like to bottle these things up. And I feel like when you bottle those things up, you start to attach yourself to the negativity, which latches on in a great deal. Whereas you start doing something more positive and motivational, like working out or going to the gym, doing programs like that, you start to realize that there's light at the end of the tunnel. And I feel like that's what you got to do, is just keep driving until you hit that light at the end.
Tyler O'Brien, put it there. Nice to meet you, and
Nice to meet you
all the
too.
best to you on your journey moving forward.
Thank you so much.
I think we got to end this only with some uplifting music. So Tyler O'Brien lives in Winnipeg, live with us here at the Y at 301 Vaughan. You can find more information on the Y's mental health programs on their website, ywinnipeg.ca. I'll explain this tune in a moment, but just turn up your radio.
Young mind, there's no need to feel down. Young mind, pick yourself off the ground. I say young mind, 'cause you're in a new town. There's no need to be unhappy. Young mind, there's a place you can go. I said young mind, when you're short on your dough, if you come by, then I'm sure you will find many ways to have a good time. Just make your way to the YMCA. themselves. Make your way to the YMCA. Just make your way to the YMCA.
Well, you know the tune, but you might not know this version or what's behind it. So this is a reboot of the YMCA by the Village People, right? This version recorded by Canadian indie pop band Walk Off the Earth, and it was in partnership with the YMCA Canada. The goal was to try and raise awareness around the Y's mental health program called Y Mind. And now you know why we're playing it after our last interview. They offer free mental health support for teens and youth all across Canada, and you can check to see about the programming here in Winnipeg. We're broadcasting live at the Y this morning. We're at 301 Vaughan.
You can come and feel seen. You can learn how to heal. Come along for some help that's real. Let the world.
It's 9 minutes now to 8 o'clock on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app or on YouTube. Well, next on the program, let's turn our attention to the news of the day. As you have likely been hearing, the province is one step closer to searching a landfill for the remains of 2 victims of a Winnipeg serial killer. Premier Rob Canoe said Manitoba's Environmental Approvals Branch has given the province the green light to alter the licensing requirements that are needed to search the Prairie Green landfill. So that means the search could begin later this year. Canoe says he's updated the families of the victims, Morgan Harris and Mercedes Myron, and he says searching the landfill is the right thing to do, and the Premier said a sign of respect to the families. Now, in case you missed the details, Heather and I were talking earlier this morning about the fact that we actually did get quite a lot of detail from the Premier yesterday about next steps and where we're at in this moment. So if you missed those, here's a bit of that. This is Rob Canoe, the Premier, explaining how the search will work during a news conference yesterday.
The families have been put through so much and are just coming out of what I can only imagine was a very difficult 6-week trial period. Throughout this period, we have been trying to put the families first. And that's why prior to telling the public, prior to advising the media, we met with both the Myron and the Harris families today to bring them up to speed on what we've been doing to search the Prairie Green landfill. We've approved the environmental license to be able to search the Prairie Green landfill. The healing space building is under construction. Right now, the families are on their way to go tour that facility. It is going to be installed at the Prairie Green landfill site in July. Site preparations are currently underway. We've received the high-level permitting from the South Interlake District to be able to install those facilities. What will follow on those approvals are the specific building permits for both the search facility to be installed at the Prairie Green site and also for the healing space to be installed on a foundation at the site. I also shared with the families that we are moving forward in a few ways beyond what was contemplated in the reports that have been widely shared earlier this year. And we're doing so for 2 specific reasons. One is that we've made a significant advancement in terms of identifying where we believe the remains are within the site. And the second is that we have found what we believe to be a better approach to searching the landfill material at Prairie Green. So on the first point, basically, by having a close look at what was publicly disclosed through the trial process, by working with an engineer, working with the owners at Prairie Green over the past number of months, we now have a much clearer picture of where the remains are likely to be, and they are actually closer to the middle of these cells rather than closer to the surface. As a result, the search is going to proceed in a different fashion. One of the early stages after we do initial pilot and test searches is going to be to remove the top layers of material and then to be able to get at the target. We're looking for May 16, 2022 in particular, and we believe that we have a closer idea of where that is within that 3-dimensional location of that part of the Prairie Green site. We are also going to be moving forward with a manual search. So the benefits that this provides is that within a broad structure that we are setting up on the site, landfill material will be moved down from these cells and spread out basically in a grid system where multiple searchers will be able to go through the material, open bags, do all those sorts of things. The reasons why we're proceeding with this manual search is that after having our team and our experts look into this, we have concluded that this is going to allow us to move forward in a much more robust fashion with a more thorough search with less downtime. If we use a conveyor belt system, if the belt breaks, the whole search comes to a stop. And we're trying to avoid that. The families have been forced to wait long enough. We've been forced to wait through the trial period. And so now we've come up with this additional search method, which we believe is more robust and will have less downtime, and consequently could bring us closer to the resolution of the Prairie Green search. At the end of the day, this is a very emotional process. We can only imagine what it's been like for the families to find out this news, what it was like for them to have the search politicized last year, what it's been like for them to go through the trial period, and then now for us to engage with them and to tell them, we are starting the search. We are going to try to bring the remains of your loved ones home. And so I want to express the utmost of compassion and understanding and I guess sympathy for the frustration and the sadness and the tears and everything that these families have been through. We're going to work with them. We're going to work with Indigenous leadership, and we're going to do our best to bring their loved ones home. At the end of the day, the message that I want to send to the families is that through the actions of our government, through the support of the people of Manitoba, I hope that you understand that you and your loved ones are valued, have dignity, and that you live in a province where we don't leave anyone behind.
That was Premier Wab Kinew yesterday talking about the province's plans to search the Prairie Green landfill for the remains of Morgan Harris and Mercedes Myron. Both the province and the federal governments have committed now each $20 million to help fund the search. And if you want to read more about the details we've been given so far about how that's going to proceed and also what the families had to say after their meeting with the Premier, please go to our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba. Speaking of news, 3 minutes to 8 o'clock, Heather Wells is back.
Good morning. Well, RCMP believe they have recovered the body of a missing Winnipeg woman. 29-year-old Brittany Dawn Story was reported missing June 6th. Friends say she was in a video chat when she told them she had just hit a tree. And then further information led police to a pond near Molson, which is about 59 kilometers northeast of Winnipeg. Yesterday, police recovering a submerged vehicle with a body inside. On Saturday, it will be 1 year since a crash on the Trans-Canada near Carberry left 17 people dead, 8 others injured. The first responder and medical response was unprecedented. We'll hear more in our next local news at 8:30.
All right, thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
In the forecast, it is 15 degrees. It's mainly sunny, lots of blue sky through the windows here at the downtown Y on Vaughan Street as we're looking north. It looks like it's going to be a pretty decent start to the day. The high is 23. We have a 30% chance of late morning showers that could extend to the afternoon, and then a risk of a thunderstorm in Winnipeg later. So bring the jacket, be prepared for anything. Any traffic updates, call Dylan at 788-3093, and still ahead after 8, meeting people poolside.
Good morning from the pool from the downtown Y. You're listening to CBC.
Little tough to hear them. They were all splashing around in the middle of the pool. 15 folks in water saying hello from their aqua fitness class. We'll hear what motivated them to take the plunge here at the downtown Y and what the facility has meant to them. From recovering from surgeries to people living with disabilities, we're going to meet some of those Y members as our special community broadcast continues ahead on CBC. I'm Marcy Marcusa. We're live at the downtown Y, 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app or YouTube. Stay with us.
On Cue with Tom Power. When you go to a Kamasi Washington show, it's a jazz show. There's no doubt about that. But it's full of people who've probably never been to a jazz show before in their lives. Kamasi will be here to talk about how he made jazz accessible for a larger audience and working with Kendrick Lamar.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Kendrick definitely kicked the door wide open.
That's coming up on Cue, followed by Commotion with Elamine Abdel Mahmoud on CBC Radio 1, the CBC Listen app, and everywhere you get your podcasts.
The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current with Matt Galloway.
It's called drip pricing. All those extra fees that show up and how much you actually pay for something that weren't in the initial price. Experts say Canada needs to crack down so consumers can trust what they see. That's coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Marcia Young. We're getting troubling details about sexual violence in the Israel-Hamas war for months. There have been stories from survivors and allegations in the news. Independent experts have been conducting a detailed investigation backed by the United Nations, and today they are reporting what they found. Julia Wong is in our London bureau going over the details. Julia, what are these experts revealing?
So there are two reports, one focusing on the October 7th attacks and another focusing on Israel's response in the months following. Published by the UN Commission of Inquiry, the reports indicate both Israel and Hamas committed war crimes, including murder, outrages upon personal dignity, torture, and inhumane or cruel treatment. One report found evidence suggesting Hamas and other Palestinian groups decapitated Israelis, set houses on fire while there were people inside, and it also finds there was a pattern of sexual violence in the attacks. The second report finds Israeli bombardments have wiped out whole families, that civilians were forced into harm's way when attacks were carried out, and civilians were killed even when holding white flags. That report also states it heard accounts of gender-based violence carried out by Israeli troops, including public stripping, removing of veils, and physical abuse of women who refused to undergo searches. And it finds Israelis, through their military response, have committed the war crime of intentionally using starvation as a type of warfare. Israel's diplomatic mission to the UN told Reuters that Israel rejects these findings, and so far there's been no response from Hamas.
Thank you, Julia.
Thank you.
The CBC's Julia Wong reporting from London. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in Qatar promoting the U.S.-backed ceasefire proposal. Hamas has asked for changes to the plan, and Blinken says some of those changes are workable, others are not.
A deal was on the table that was virtually identical to the proposal that Hamas put forward on May the 6th. And Hamas could have answered with a single word, yes. Instead, Hamas waited nearly 2 weeks and then proposed more changes, a number of which go beyond positions that it previously taken and accepted.
Blinken says mediators are still trying to close the deal. He also reminded Hamas that while the war drags on, Palestinians will suffer. The International Criminal Court is appealing for witnesses to atrocities in Sudan. It is investigating allegations of war crimes and crimes against humanity. Fighting between the country's army and paramilitary rapid support forces has displaced some 10 million people. And now the violence is intensifying in North Darfur. Idil Musa is following developments.
I am launching an urgent call.
The International Criminal Court's chief prosecutor, Karim Khan, is pleading for help in documenting atrocities in Sudan. More than 14,000 people have been killed in the conflict, and the UN says there are reports of widespread use of sexual violence as a weapon of war.
I am particularly concerned by the ethnically motivated nature of these attacks.
On Sunday, the only hospital capable of handling mass casualties in North Darfur's capital was attacked. A video posted to social media, not verified by CBC News, appears to show members of the RSF cheering in front of the facility. Doctors Without Borders says the paramilitary group opened fire and looted drugs and medical equipment. The United Arab Emirates has been accused of sending weapons to the militia, while Egypt and Saudi Arabia have been linked to supporting the country's army. Nisreen El-Amin teaches African Studies at the University of Toronto.
Unless all of those actors are brought to the negotiation table, I think little will change on the ground. There needs to be pressure on those external actors.
The UN says Sudan's civil war has created the world's worst displacement crisis, and the country now stands on the brink of famine. Idil Musa, CBC News, Toronto.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau will fly to Italy this morning for the annual G7 Leaders Summit. The three-day meeting begins tomorrow in the southern region of Puglia, and it is happening as the world's conflicts weigh on the international community. In addition to Sudan and the Middle East, the war in Ukraine is entering its third year. The leaders are also expected to discuss energy transition, artificial intelligence, migration, and collaboration with Africa. Pope Francis is once again being criticized for using a homophobic slur in a closed-door meeting. But this time it was in front of a few hundred priests. it happened just weeks after he had to apologize for using the same offensive word. Megan Williams has more from Rome.
Last month, Pope Francis, the most welcoming of all popes to 2S LGBTQ plus Catholics, issued an apology following a leak that he'd used a highly offensive word to describe gay men in a closed-door meeting with Catholic bishops.
And yet, he used it again.
Says longtime Vatican observer Robert Mickens of reports from a meeting with priests yesterday that he repeated the word.
It makes one wonder, did he really repent of saying it the first time?
According to Italian media, Francis told the group of priests meeting here in Rome that the Vatican has an air of gayness, using the offensive term to describe gayness. He said it was better that young men with what he called a homosexual tendency, Vatican speak for gay, not be allowed to enter the seminary. Studies show the percentage of gay men in the priesthood is higher than the general population. Mickens says rather than sexuality being openly discussed in seminaries, gay men are often pressured to stay in the closet. The Pope's comment, he says, not only encourages this, but it also
enforces the mentality of the bigots so they can feel supported in their own bigotry.
Last night, the Vatican issued a statement saying the Pope had spoken of welcoming gay men into the church with the need for prudence regarding their entry into the seminary. Megan Williams, CBC News, Rome.
Today in Lethbridge, Alberta, a female undercover officer will continue her testimony at the trial for two men charged with conspiracy to commit murder. It happened during the Coutts border blockade in 2022. Prosecutors allege Anthony Olniuk and Chris Carbert plotted to murder police. The undercover officer testified she and her colleagues infiltrated the blockade. They posed as supporters of what Olniuk called the revolution. She says Olniuk told her the group stockpiled hundreds of guns, and if the Mounties tried to take action against them, he said force would be met with greater force. A new billion-dollar deal has the potential to change telecommunications in the North. Bell Canada says it is selling the region's largest telecom company, Northwestel. Now groups from all three territories are joining forces to create one of the largest Indigenous-owned companies in the country. Chris Windier reports.
It brings three territories together, and it really allows us to take control of the communications in our communities that we rely on.
Tiffany Eckert-Murray is with 60 North Unity's Yukon Wing. The Indigenous-owned consortium also includes Nunavut and the Northwest Territories, and it's about to buy the largest private sector employer north of 60, Northwestel. The region's main telecommunications company has been part of Bell Canada since the 1980s. Eckert-Murray says the deal is an important milestone for economic reconciliation in the North.
When you're asking us what this deal means, to me, we are honoring the spirits of our grandfathers, and that nothing more powerful than that.
Northwestel offers phone, internet, and TV service in all three territories, but it has also come under fire from Northerners for poor service and high prices. Eckert-Murray says 60 North Unity plans some major upgrades. It hopes to double fiber optic internet speeds, expand satellite and terrestrial internet coverage, and put $4 million into a backup fiber optic cable for the Northwest Territories. Northwestel President Curtis Shaw says the deal also means jobs coming back to the North.
Finance and accounting, legal, regulatory, those positions are going to be hired back in Northern Canada, which I think is really great from a private sector employment standpoint.
The sale price, roughly $1 billion. Bell and 60 North Unity plan to close the deal later this year. Chris Windier, CBC News, Whitehorse.
One of France's most iconic pop stars has died.
C'est le temps de l'amour, le temps des copains et de l'aventure.
Françoise Hardy reached global fame in the 1960s with her French ballads and later her rock songs. She was a muse for the likes of David Bowie and the Rolling Stones. Bob Dylan wrote a poem about her and her connection to Paris. Hardy was diagnosed with lymphatic cancer 2 decades ago. Her son announced her death on Instagram with a photo with him as a baby with his mom. Françoise Hardy died yesterday at the age of 80.
Il y aura dans nos yeux tout le ciel bleu. C'est le temps de
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Quand le temps va et vient, on ne pense à rien, malgré
So you're pulling yourself up right now, upside down on the rings.
And now I'm gonna do the plant. This is the hardest.
You're shaking.
Yeah.
How long have you been coming to the Y for?
Approximately 6 months. I turned 30 this year, 2024, and I felt like, okay, you know what? It's too late. It just hit me really hard, and I never skipped a day. I couldn't even do like 10 pull-ups, but now I can do 100 push-ups in a go, or 20, 25 pull-ups. I look myself in the mirror and I feel pride. And I believe pride is the greatest feeling, greatest emotion. Gratitude and pride. That's the greatest emotion a man can ever have. Hi, my name is Nitesh Goswami. You're listening to Information Radio, live from the downtown Y on CBC Radio 1.
I'm Marcy Marcusa, and we are live at the Y at 301 Vaughan on CBC. It's our community studio for the morning, right in the middle of the gym on the second floor, watching the sun come up in beautiful downtown Winnipeg this morning. Nice weather out there. This half hour, as we continue our broadcast, looking at the Y, how it meets the changing needs of the community in Winnipeg, we're going to hit the water here. We're going to hear how members who live with disabilities and those seeking personal connections have all found what they're looking for at their Aqua Fitness class. So we're going to hear from some of those members. And through the morning, we've been talking about history. The Y's been around for 145 years in community, and they've gone through all kinds of transformations. But we're going to talk to someone who is just creating new history with the Y. They're a new member. So stay tuned. That's still ahead. First, though, let's go for news of the day to Heather Wells, who's here with our headlines on CBC. Heather?
Hi there. Well, Premier Wab Canoe says the project to search the Prairie Green landfill for the remains of 2 First Nations women started months ago. The province has approved an environmental license. A healing space building is under construction to be installed on that site next month. And Canoe says a test search will be done this month. We're going to hear more of what's happening there. As well, this Saturday will be 1 year since a crash on the Trans-Canada near Carberry left 17 people dead. 8 other people were hurt. Most of the victims were from the Dauphin area. The first responder and medical response to that incident was unprecedented. We're going to hear more in our next local news at 8:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather. Let's get into what's happening now in the weather forecast. Abby, I'm just noticing our temperatures have popped up a little.
Yes, we've gone up by 1 again. It's 16 and lots of sunshine right now in Winnipeg. For today, we will see a mix of sun and clouds. There's a chance of showers late this morning into the afternoon period with a risk of thunderstorm later in the day, and a high for today will be around 23. As we move into the evening period, expect partly cloudy skies. There's a 60% chance of showers or thunderstorm this evening, and then that's going to be crawling into after the midnight period. For tomorrow, we're going to see a mix of sun and clouds also, but right now Winnipeg, it is 16, mix of sun and clouds, possible showers or risk of thunderstorm, and tonight will be partly cloudy, and we're headed to a high of 23.
All right, thanks, Abby.
You're welcome.
Abby Adeyemi with our forecast today, and it does look like that rain, as Abby alluded to, is moving. So it was in Brandon already active this morning, rain showers being reported, and now it's active in Portage. It looks like getting a thunderstorm. So we'll see what develops here. Right now, though, let's see what's developing on your morning commute. Dylan Longhurst is filling in for Corey. What's up?
Yeah, it's been a really quiet commute today. Not much to report happening so far. Of course, there's still a little bit more time in our show this morning. So if you see something out there that's slowing you down, give us a call, 204-788-3093.
Thanks for joining us at our special broadcast out in community this morning. We're at the downtown Y at 301 Vaughan Street. And throughout the morning, we've been meeting members. And I alluded to this. There's a new member with me now. Aladin Ibrahim we've coaxed to sit down with us. Good morning.
Good morning, lady. Good morning,
Good
everybody.
morning.
Happy to see you.
Happy to see you.
Thank you, lady. Nice to see you
Yeah.
also. It's
So-
a great day.
When did you start coming to the Y?
To why about 1 month, and
Yeah.
I like it. It's nice gym, nice people, friendly, and believe me, it should be you make it every day before you go to work. You will feel much better. It's make it all your body work like real nice organization for all your body if you started your day by gym.
Have you always started your day by the gym in your life?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's life.
Where was the gym before you were here at the Y?
Gold's Gym in Egypt.
When did you arrive in here from Egypt?
About 2 months, 3 months, around 3 months now.
Wow.
Yeah, and I like Canada.
Yeah?
I like it. It's nice country, nice people, and I wish for all a good day.
It's interesting because you know what we were talking about earlier this morning, Aladine. The Y is actually trying to change its programming to meet the needs of newcomer populations because that's exploding in downtown Winnipeg.
That's
lots of
interesting.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they actually have they're starting language programs and daycare for families that need it, all kinds of things. Are you using any of the other programs here? Or are you just working out?
Just work out now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's it been for you transitioning here as a newcomer in Canada so far?
We come with my wife, Ukraine.
Okay.
So we have special program, great programs. So we start our life here. So why not?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, lady.
Pleasure to meet you.
Nice
and
to meet
thank you
you
for being on CBC.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah,
have a great day.
You too. I'm always amazed when people just agree. We interrupt their mornings and their routines and they agree to come on CBC with us. I'm grateful. Thank you. Aladine Ibrahim, not only new to the Y, but new to Canada, as you heard, just been here for a couple of months from Egypt, but now uses the Y every morning as a way to start his day. Well, I mentioned that we're meeting all kinds of different people who use the Y for physical programming, as well as for mental health programming we heard in the last half hour of the show, as the Y continues to grow and change. However, there is something that is historic to the Y, and that is the water. The downtown YMYWCA itself is 145 years old. Its first permanent home, as we were talking about earlier in the program, was located on the corner of Portage and Smith. That is a big red building that you're going to know was home to the Burke's building, at Burke's Jeweler at one point. But the original YMCA there had reading rooms, a rotunda, a lecture hall, classes, bedrooms, bowling alleys. But it also was the site of the city's very first indoor swimming pool. By 1913, the Y moved into this location where we are today on Vaughan. But there's still an indoor pool on the level right below us. And it's busy as ever. I found that out on Monday morning when I popped in on an aqua fitness class to meet some members.
Well, let's get moving. Let's start with a nice easy high knee march from the spot. Loosen up those hips, knees up to hip height. Arms are pumping forward and back. Loosen up those shoulders.
We are on the deck at the pool at the downtown Y. Can you introduce yourself?
My name's Anna Nalt.
How long have you been using the pool at the Y?
Since 1994.
Wow.
I usually work out for a couple of hours in the gym, and then I do aquafit on Mondays and Fridays.
Obviously, we're here kind of highlighting the Y and what it means to Winnipeggers. What does it mean to you? What's its place in your life?
Every person's different, so I get to meet different people, and I like that, and I like to work out.
Yeah. Are you a part of the downtown community, or do you travel here to use the facility?
I live just behind Vimy Ridge Park, and so I take the bus here.
What do you like about exercising in the water?
It's silly, like you laugh at yourself more when you're in the pool because they ask you to do something and of course you cannot do it and you wind up bobbing around in the water. And I don't laugh at myself very much.
I love that.
Isn't that the reason you would exercise? Because I lift weights and I use a treadmill. That's very serious. It's very serious stuff. This is silly. I don't know how else to explain it.
What's the importance of physical wellness to your mental and physical health? What's its role in your life?
Oh, we just had that conversation. This one woman does laps, which I find really boring, and I do aquafit, which she finds really shallow. I think it's because you don't think about anything except the exercise. It's physically demanding, and then when you're done, you feel like you can relax. So for me, it's the physical demand. And I used to do more physically, but I'm over 70 now, so I do less physically.
You look amazing.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind.
Yeah. Thank you. Woo! You got it going on there. You got a strong kick. What's your name?
Sasha Coppolo.
How long have you been coming to Aquasize here?
Since I was like 17, and I'm 49 now.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so cool. And actually here at the Downtown Y?
Here, and then I moved around Canada, different countries, and came back here eventually. Yeah.
What is its place in your life?
Oh, it's so important because I'm disabled. I have a back injury, so I can't work out on land anymore. So this is like the only really good movement I get every week.
Can I ask how you injured your back?
Doing hardcore cycling. I cycled from Winnipeg to Mexico once. I just did it too hard and wasn't paying attention because I was young and invincible.
What's the community like here at the Downtown Y? Because it's obviously it's a fitness facility, but it's a lot more than that. We're learning about how it's growing, changing to meet all kinds of needs for folks.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's very diverse. I meet Ethiopian new immigrants in the hot tub, and we chat, and they're trying to teach me their language. There's little kids in the change room hanging out and playing. It's really nice.
And what about Aquasize? So what do you love about taking Aquasize specifically? You said it's crucial to your because of your injury, but what's it like to be part of the class?
Oh, it's wonderful. We were kind of like a little family. Most of the women here are a little older than me, so they kind of take care of me like a little kid. I just got my license, learned how to drive, and they ask me how I'm doing every day. Are you getting in any accidents? Are you doing okay?
I love it. We should finish with a big kick. Okay, go for it.
I just find that because I'm living close to the Y, I'm living a healthier lifestyle, even though I lived in the country before. So
that's so cool, because a lot of people might think that city life would make you less active somehow.
No, I walk everywhere I go now, so it's really good for me. So, and I love using the pool twice a week here.
I'm Jim Chaprick. I have arthritic knees, and I've had one done, and it didn't work out so well, and I need to get another one done, but I thought, well, maybe if I get my muscles stronger on my knees, I won't have to get the other knee done.
Yeah. What's the experience been like here at the Y and part of these classes?
Oh, I think it's the best deal in town. Classes, and I'm totally in love with the Y.
Oh, there's your cue. Thank you, Jim. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Reach with those legs, long stride. And let's take it into a jack. Hands together, feet together, hands up to the surface. Back down, in and out.
So those are some of the members of the YMYWCA's Monday morning aquafit class here in the pool. I spoke with Anna Nault, Sasha Coppolo, Joan Clement, Jim Caprick, and Sandra Sadiua in the pool on Monday morning. It is our live broadcast from the Y this morning. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for joining us. This is our community studio, the Downtown Y at 301 Vaughan Street. And we're on the second floor right in the middle of the gym, learning all about the different programs that are offered here. And most importantly, how they meet the needs of the community. So at 8:22, let's revisit something in case you missed it earlier. There's been an explosion in the need for daycare here. I think that the term that the head of the Y here downtown used was the demand for that has skyrocketed. And so they do have a wait list, but they also are meeting the needs of people here at the Y. One of the people who uses the daycare is my next guest. Abigail De Vera has popped in, and I understand just dropped off your daughter downstairs?
Yes.
Yeah,
good morning.
Good morning. How old's your daughter?
She's 3 years old.
Yep.
She started 2 years old here.
How important was it in your life to find daycare space that you could have that would work?
No, I can't imagine not sending my kid to this childcare because of the experiences they give, the benefits of exposing your kid to a lot of experiences for their development, such as their cognitive, their social, emotional, and language.
And you know about that because I understand that your actual work,
yes.
You work as a childhood educator yourself, right?
That's right. I'm not being biased, but yeah, it's really good sending your kid to a childcare.
Did you have to wait for a space? Was it difficult to find a space in Winnipeg?
Not really. Well, for me, because I work in the ECE as an ECE here, so
you knew what you had to do.
Yes,
to get your daughter into the daycare.
Yeah.
What's the meaning of the Y in your life overall? What's it been like for you here?
It's like a home for me. It's more than just like a childcare for me. It's like I literally live very close to my work here, so I don't need to go out of the building. Actually,
that's amazing. Yeah. We're talking about the downtown population this morning. You said you live close by.
Yes.
The Y is part of a bigger piece of things too. They're going to redevelop Portage Place, the Bay.
I'm so excited about that.
Tell me about that. What are you excited about as a downtown resident around you here?
Right now, not just excited, but I am already happy about it because I can send my kid to swimming, like out of childcare time. I can send her swimming because there's pool here, like also gymnastics. They offer lots of activities for my kids. So it's like a helping hand for me.
I love that as a parent because that can happen, and then you can have. Does it provide you peace of mind?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. And then larger downtown area. Are you excited because they're talking about more residents, and it's really going to change things down here.
It gives me more excitement.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I heard of some renovations that are coming up, splash baths and infant care.
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
Well, there's things actually that are needed in the downtown. Would those be the things that will be on your list for your child when you look at, you have the Y, but outside of the Y, having some of that?
Yes.
Yeah. Amazing. How did you know about the Y? Like, did you know through your work about the Y, or how did you know that the Y had all this to offer you as a downtown resident?
I live close.
Yep.
Like I said. And then they, lots of promotions, I believe. And I hear a lot of good things about them. So
amazing that you were able to take some time out of your day to be with us. Thank you very much. We've been talking to Abigail De Vera, one of the many parents that uses the Y. The Y is the largest childcare provider for spaces in the province. In fact, her 3-year-old daughter is in the daycare as we speak. The time right now is 8:26 on CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app or on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching the show this morning and joining us this morning. Thank you, Abigail. And thanks to everybody who's been on the air with us here. We've had just a stream of people coming in to talk to us about their connections to the Y. I also want to mention that as we continue to be out on location more, we would love to hear where we should be next. So if you have a pitch for where I like to call them our next community studio might be, let us know. Where should we be out and about in the morning that would reflect your life in Winnipeg? You can always leave that information on our listener line, 788-3205. You can also email us, and to email the show directly, it's radio893@cbc.ca.
A classic board game created by a Canadian couple.
Yahtzee, that dice-rolling strategy game you play like cards.
An ice cream chain offering one flavor for every day of the month.
Get that 30 wonderful feeling.
And an iconic lighter that was named after a zipper. Brand Envy 2024 on Under the Influence with Terry O'Reilly. Thursday morning at 11:30, 3:30 p.m. in Newfoundland. And on the CBC Listen app.
It is 8:27 a.m. and back in our Studio 15 at Portage Avenue as I'm out live at the Y. Janet Stewart's back at the studio, and she's in to tell us what's coming up on the Radio Noon call-in conversation.
Hey, Marcy, I'm wishing I was down there at the Y with you. It sounds like a fantastic place to hang out in the morning.
It's been pretty uplifting, I have to tell you, Janet. Yeah. Like, you come in and you're like, oh, you're tired in the morning, and everybody going to work, right? You might go into your office, and then all of a sudden you're around people that uplift you, and you're like, oh, what a wonderful place to spend a morning. Yep.
And you know what? I'm just going to say that a lot of people listening might be thinking, downtown Y? I'd be scared to go to the downtown Y, worried about running into somebody who's, drug addicted or whatever on the streets. But everybody there has talked about it as such a wonderful, safe community place that blows that concern out of the water.
What's up on your call-in today?
The city's looking for help deciding how to replace Pego. It wants to modernize its bus fare collection system. What problems have you had with Pego? That's what we're asking today. And what else needs to be modernized when it comes to Winnipeg Transit? Let's talk about it today on our call-in conversation. If you'd like to, you can weigh in now, 204-788-3797.
All right, thanks very much, Janet.
Thank you.
And if you want to read more about, Janet was alluding to sort of the stigmas around downtown, but also some of the real problems around downtown. Just a reminder that this week we had interviews about the state of the inner city, the report that came out. That was a brand new report. So you can read more about that on our website at cbc.ca/Manitoba. And when it comes to transportation and transit and changing the Pego cards, as Janet just mentioned, you can leave a message now if you can't make the conversation live between 12:30 and 1. And the place to do that and leave that message is 788-3797. Well, I do have a bit of time before the news here. I just want to do a couple of thank yous. Thank you so much to Casey Nishi and to Mitch Cruz, to Cordella Friesen, all here at the Y, helping us touch base with people, being so generous with their time and having us broadcast here. Thank you, guys. Thank you to all of the guests this morning that have been shared their stories with us here on CBC, and especially those folks that we pulled, out of their floor hockey games and off of the gym equipment to come and join us here on your public broadcaster to tell us why, how you're connected to the Y and to the downtown community. Really appreciate all of your stories today on the program. And big thanks to our teams, our live teams. So to producer Wendy Parker, who's been on site with us, to Corey Funk, as well as to Abby Adeyemi and Dylan Longhurst and Kevin Nipatebo, who are back in our studios. And to our news team, Megan Ketchison and Joni Nicolo and Heather Wells, who we're about to hear from. The morning commute has been pretty okay today. And if you do have something, even though we're late in the drive, please still call Dylan on the commute line line at 788-3093. Right now, though, your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 8:30, it's sunny. It's beautiful. 16 degrees right now. We're headed to 23 today and a mix of sun and clouds. There is a slight chance of showers, maybe even a thunderstorm this afternoon. Premier Wab Canoe says the project to search the Prairie Green landfill for the remains of 2 First Nations women started months ago. The province has approved an environmental license. A healing space building is under construction and will be installed on that site in July. Canoe says a test search will be done this month. He says officials have decided to do a manual search.
After having our team and our experts look into this, we have concluded that this is going to allow us to move forward in a much more robust fashion with a more thorough search with less downtime. If we use a conveyor belt system, if the belt breaks, the whole search comes to a stop.
Searchers will be hired and trained over the summer. Canoe says some family members of Morgan Harris and Mercedes Myron are interested in joining the search. The project could go into early 2026, and Canoe believes the $40 million committed by 2 levels of government will cover the costs. Saturday marks 1 year since the bus crash on the Trans-Canada near Carberry left 17 people dead, 8 others injured. First responders and hospital staff from different communities came together in an unprecedented response. Dr. Sean Young, Chief Operating Officer at Winnipeg's Health Sciences Centre, cared for most of the survivors.
The part that stands out for the most for me was seeing the families, meeting the families, and talking to some of the families and seeing what they were going through and how this is impacting them. So for me, it was that is the part that will stick with me forever.
People will gather in Dauphin on Saturday to honor the victims of the crash, and a monument dedicated to all those on the bus will be unveiled. RCMP believe they have recovered the body of a missing Winnipeg woman. 29-year-old Brittany Dawn Story was reported missing June 6th. Friends say she was in a video chat when she told them she had just hit a tree west of Whiteshell Provincial Park. This week, further information led police to a pond in the area of Molson, that's near Beausejour. And yesterday, an RCMP underwater recovery team pulled out a submerged vehicle with a body inside. An autopsy will be done to confirm identity. The provincial by-election in Tuxedo is 6 days away. PC candidate Lawrence Pinsky is a lawyer, and he is trying to hold on to that seat for the Tories.
I see a provincial government that's really separating people, that's doing terribly on the economy. I see a world that's gone a little bit upside down, and I see Manitoba having a brilliant set of capital assets, its people, and it's being mismanaged.
Pinsky's NDP rival is a nurse, Carla Compton.
I can bring my experience from the front lines of healthcare to the government's table, even in the capacity as a backbencher.
The Liberals are running Jamie Fow, a PhD candidate in community health science. The Green Party is running its leader, Janine Gibson, and people in Tuxedo vote on Tuesday. The Canadian Urban Institute says the public and private sectors need to boost spending on transit, roads, and water lines as governments scramble to meet the country's growing demand for housing. It says for every new home built in this country, $100,000 needs to be spent on infrastructure. The Institute recommends municipalities develop new financing programs that will encourage property developers to invest in entire neighborhoods and not just in houses. That is the CBC News from Winnipeg. You can find more news updated throughout the day. Just head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
With a last quick look now at the weather and traffic, Abby?
Yeah, across the province, Brandon is seeing a thunderstorm and light showers at the moment. Varied mix of sun and clouds with potential showers for the rest of the south, while the north is experiencing mostly cloudy conditions with a possibility of rain. We're looking at highs for the day ranging from 3 degrees in Churchill to 26 in Morris. But in Winnipeg, it is beautiful. We're getting lots of sunshine. It's 16 degrees. We're going to see a mix of sun and clouds today with a risk of thunderstorms sometime in the afternoon, and we're hitting a high of 23.
And Dylan Longhurst, anything to leave us with on the commute?
Yeah, we got a call about 10 minutes ago from the tired teacher. They say that illegally parked cars blocking the northbound curb lane on St. Mary's, that's just before Fermor. Really slowing everyone down because you lose that entire curb lane at Fermor and you got to cram into that the median left lane there. So slowing people down this morning might slow you down on your commute, but might also be fixed up real soon. If you see anything else, well, I guess that's for tomorrow's call. Take care. Have a good morning.
All right, thanks very much, Dylan. Well, I'm going to tell you, we've been at the Y all morning, and Cordella Friesen was on talking about the fact that they have plans to redevelop the Y. So this is the one thing we haven't really dug into this morning, and that is because it is all about the Y's future. And they actually just put out an announcement today talking about a $15 million redevelopment. So they're looking at all kinds of different things. They're going to try to modernize the building, and this is a heritage historic building, so there's going to be work to do. Expand some of their community classrooms and accessibility, and expand childcare. They also have some plans for a splash pad, so we'll see how that goes. But all those plans are currently being finalized. They do have construction. They're hoping to begin here at the downtown Y in 2025, and they're hoping to have everything done and upgraded by 2027. So some changes coming here to the Y, but it's been a pleasure exploring what they are already offering the community in downtown Winnipeg this morning. Thank you to the YMYWCA for hosting us here at 301 Vaughan in the downtown, and thank you to the community that came out to be part of our program. I'm Marcy Marcusa on behalf of our team here at Information Radio. And Corey, you got your headphones on, so you should say goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Take care, be well, Manitoba, be healthy, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow on Information Radio.